I get those goosebumps every time you come around. Use your mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I get those goosebumps every time. Yeah, when you're around,
Oh, yes, we are back. Welcome all to Loaded Mag NUFC. We're back again, season 23-24, Battleground Europe. Let the games begin. And of course, we've got a number of guests this evening to talk and state their claim, as we put out on Twitter, to state their claim on where they believe their team will finish this season. And of course, there's only one way to do a Battleground Europe, and it's Brandy and Blaze in the house. So welcome, Mr. Chris Hall. How are you, fella?
Good, mate. Yeah, good. Really looking forward to having the lads on tonight to talk all things Europe next season. I think, yeah, do you know what? This season more than any, and I'm sure the lads will agree, it's going to be a tight one. I think there's 7, 8, 9 even teams who are going to be up there, and I think it's probably going to be the most competitive Premier League that we've seen for a long time. So yeah, it'd be good to chat to the lads tonight and see where they think their teams are this season.
Definitely, and this is why we're here, to make sure that we get to state our claim. And Chris, you're going to state your claim for Newcastle United as the show goes on. So I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on that. But why not get them in right now? So first of all, welcome in from Redmen TV. We've got Errol. How you doing? Welcome back, my man.
Yes, big up, back again for another season. I feel like at this point I'm a glutton for punishment with you, like, you know. The amount of Geordie lads or Newcastle followers that follow me after doing one of your streams, and I just see it all on the timeline now, and I'm like, they're a good bunch. You need to fuck off. You've spoiled the party, but because you're a good bunch, I don't mind it.
Hey, we're persistent. That's one thing that we are as a fan base. We don't give up, and we always rep our club no matter where we go. But look, always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm interested to get your opinion on your club as we go along tonight. But there are others joining us. So we have Keen as well from the Devil's Advocate podcast. Welcome back again, Keen. How are you, fellow?
Good, lads. It's been a while. Thanks for having me on again. Look, we've had great chats about both our clubs and about certain different situations. Like, we've both been up and down. It's mad now. We're all going into a season where we're all kind of on the way up and hoping to kind of get better now. So, yeah, look, it's great to be on, lads.
Definitely. Interesting. We'll put someone in the middle of you two because I know Keane and Aaron ain't been on before. That Man United-Liverpool rivalry may well kick off. We'll see. And, of course, we've got Adam back from Together, BHA. Welcome back. How are you, fella?
Good. How are you guys? It's good to be back. I'll tell you what, it's weird to be. I feel like I've just walked into the wrong house, like on a show about European football. It's that weird to be here. So, yeah, hopefully not just making up the numbers this year, you know?
Well, I remember you saying on the last Battleground Europe, you didn't think you were going to be relatively part of that conversation. And you're here.
Good thing is I'm always wrong. So, yeah, it worked out in my favor this time.
Brilliant stuff. But look, you're here and we're going to talk all things European football and Battleground Europe as well. Don't worry. Lawless is in the house. He's having some technical issues at the moment. He will be joining us typically late as he always is. Well, you know from the 12th Man podcast, that guy can never be on time. So he will join us at some point, no doubt. But look, boys, I'm interested to find out from your perspectives how you guys have been going this preseason. So look, we'll start with Brighton. Adam,
Yeah.
state your claim. Talk to us. Let us know how your preseason's gone, and talk to us about your potential chances this season, 23-24.
Yeah, so this is a funny one. So I've been an expat in the US for about 10 years at this point. And this was the first. I'm based just outside of New York and New Jersey. So I actually was at the game against Newcastle in the stadium's like 20 minutes from where I live. So I got to see firsthand our side capitulate at the end of a preseason friendly against Newcastle, which was wonderful. But it was great. Like the actual preseason tour and everything, they did a really good job over here. I thought, especially our game against Chelsea, there was a bit of bad blood there because of all the goings on with transfers and whatnot. And it was quite feisty. I think our game, if you guys stayed up to watch it, the first half was barely a game of football. It's just 22 players just like sweating. It was about 34 degrees or something like that in the evening. It was you could barely breathe. So I understood it. But it was a good preseason. And I think the big thing for Brighton this year is we've obviously lost Alexis McAllister to Liverpool, which I don't know what Errol feels about that. I'm sure you'll either learn to love him or hate him. But we signed some exciting players, and we're rumoured to be signing Mohamed Kudus, is the one that's the next potentially up. And like we're set up to potentially have the most exciting Brighton front line we've ever had. So it could basically be like McTominay on that left side, who was obviously incredible last year. João Pedro, who we signed from Watford, who's got a lot of promise, and he's looked incredible pre-season. You've probably seen Julio and Ciso. He could potentially play out on the right, and you could have Kudus behind if we do end up signing him. That's without talking about players like Evan Ferguson and other guys like that. We've of course got Milner from Liverpool this off season as well. So it's exciting time to be a Brighton fan. There's no doubt about that. Are we going to finish 6th again? I tell you what, I don't know about that one. It's competitive. I'm worried about. I don't think we see. I said 8th. We did our prediction show yesterday. I think we'll finish 8th this year, and I'd be happy with that.
Finishing 8th outside of Europe, though.
Yeah, but we'll win the Europa League, so it's not a problem.
confidence, and I'm looking at Errol in that corner, and his eyebrows lit up. That is for sure. But look, boys, this is your opportunity to throw some questions at Adam. Like from my perspective, I'm really interested to see how Brighton get on. You talked about some players that you've got coming in, but there's a potential of losing a couple of players. And we talked about it before when we were on last time. But Moise Caicedo, how big is he a miss if, and it's rumored to be that Chelsea are going to come in with another offer, that you lose him? Does that have a detrimental effect, and will you sign somebody to replace him?
It will. He's our best player, so yeah, it's never good if you lose your best player. But hopefully we get a lot of money for him. It's looking like, based on the rumours, and Brighton never reveal proper numbers, but because this has dragged on so long, like it sounds like they're not going to accept anything shy of like 90 million, which is crazy money, right? Do we have depth to play players in? Because we play that double pivot, and it was Caicedo and McAllister were the ones that did that last year to like such a high standard. We've signed Mohamed Dahoud from Dortmund. It's a bit shaky in pre-season, but he's a quality player. You've also got players like we talked about Milner. Pascal Gross has been playing out of position for a number of years. He can play there. Billy Gilmore's started to actually look really, really good after his mostly down, but a bit of up between his time at Scotland, Chelsea, and Norwich. So there are players that can play in those roles. Do we have to sign someone else? Probably, but we're sat at about net zero like spend at the moment because we've sold Alexis already. We sold Robert Sanchez for 25 minutes. I don't know how Todd Bowley decided to be Todd Bowley. So we've got money. So I think we might see some movement if Moises does go, and I do think he goes. I do think we sell him in the next week because he's just bailed on training, and apparently he's kicked up a bit of a stink and is downing tools.
Interesting. Boys, you got any questions for Adam with regards to Brighton? Have you got any opinions? Like Errol, I could see your mind ticking away there with regards to Brighton and a couple of things that Adam said.
Nah, do you know what? I think it's Brighton had a really probably massively overachieved last season by their own standards.
Yeah.
And this season going into another league where you've already accepted that like it's going to be tough to kind of break back into that top six or aiming for top four Champions League football. Do you think you've probably got the depth of squad to be able to balance both competitions? Or as a Brighton fan, where would you kind of put the majority of your eggs? Would you be like, right, I'm rooting for the Europa League because I want us to go on a European swan song and we don't know when we're next going to be here. I want us to go really hard for this competition and take us on a journey of a lifetime almost? Or do I really want to cement myself as a Premier League powerhouse in that top half of the table and try and build on what we accomplished last season? It's a fine balancing act, but like as a fan, are you just happy to be involved in both, or do you want to prioritize and do things in a particular way?
I think if you ask any Brighton fan at the moment, it's a good question as well. Like Europe's got to be a priority because it might never happen again. It just might never happen again, right? And you've got to take advantage of it and it'd be a hell of a ride regardless of how it plays out. I think if you ask for ownership, their number one priority has to be league position. I think the important thing for Brighton over the next few years is cementing the club as a top 10 team, which isn't like that's a big statement now because the top 10 is hard. It's not a top 4, top 6 anymore. You know that. Specifically, you guys are ruining that party in a good way. So that's hard enough in and of itself. So I think you already saw De Zerbi was very like when we played you guys at the end of last season. I don't know what team we put out, but it was clearly a game that we played. We're like we got to go and play you guys. We've got another game 2 days later. We're probably just going to lose. And he did that. And I think we'll do that with some of the other competitions this year. I don't think he's going to prioritize much outside of the Premier League and Europe, if I had to guess.
Okay, that's fair. And just as a Liverpool fan then, what is it that we've got in McAllister? Because I've only seen glimpses of him in pre-season. Obviously, I've seen glimpses of him at the World Cup and what he's done against us. But in terms of the player and the profile, what should I be at least keeping my eyes open for, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it depends where you play him, because he is for the first 2 years of Alexis's Brighton career. I mean, this is probably boring for Newcastle fans, but if he lights up the league, this would be interesting. For the first part of his career, I didn't know what he was. We used to play him just in central midfield, and you would just watch him play, and you'd be like, I don't know what he's actually doing. And then we dropped him deeper. And he turned into that sort of deeper playmaker role. And we talked about that double pivot. Caicedo was like the guy that broke up everything and destroyed everything. And then McAllister was able to then get involved in that and then work the ball forward. And he was incredible at that. And then he started getting a little bit ahead of himself. And you saw that with Argentina as well. He wanted to work forward a little bit. He wanted to play a little bit closer to a more traditional number 10 role. He can't shoot. And so that he takes a good penalty, but he can't shoot. And that made him less effective in that role. So I think if you choose to play him deeper, he's going to be really good. If he tries to push up a little bit more and he doesn't have Lionel Messi in front of him, it's not going to be quite as fun. But he's a really talented player. I don't think he's a superstar. I think he's a very good player, and you need a good midfielder, as you well know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Boys, any other questions for Adam around Brighton?
Chris? I have one. Recently, obviously, De Zerbi's come in after Potter, and he's done an exceptional job. Look, I really admire him. He played very good football. Obviously, you have fellow Irishman and Evan Ferguson.
I knew it would lead to Ferguson.
What have you made of his development? Because from an Irish point of view, we've been looking for a striker for a long time, and he's come in, he's scored a few goals, and he's really settled. But what do you make of his development? And do you think he's going to have a long-term future at Brighton?
I really hope so.
Chris, get the pen out. We're looking at him as well, so I think we need to get the notes page open.
You've got to think about 9 months ago, Evan Ferguson was well and truly just in the under 21s, and he wasn't even being talked about as really appearing even on the subs bench. We've struggled with a number 9 famously for a long time, and everyone talking about Brighton for the last few years. Oh well, they play great football, but they can't put the ball in the back of the net. And it's like, yeah, okay. Now, De Zerbi's sort of proven that, well, actually, we could do that. It's just a different style of playing and actually getting goals from elsewhere in the team, but also making you a bit more effective with what you do with it. So we're in a weird spot where we're now sort of more sport for choice. We had no one that could score a goal, and now we've got João Pedro, Danny Welbeck, who still somehow continues to be very good for the team, and Evan Ferguson, who came in and at 19 years of age, built like an absolute brick shit house, like incredible. Like he's got the quality and talent to hold the ball up, and then he's got a shot on him like he's playing in his prime years. I think the only reservation that I've got about his future at Brighton is one, what you guys were already talking about. There's big clubs eyeing him up, and Brighton, there's a price for every Brighton player. It's going to be a high number, but there's a price for every player. It's just the way Tony Bloom works and Paul Barber. And the other thing is, like, this team is transitioning a little bit more to like fluid players up top that can play in any position. Can you play on the right and the left? Can you play in the 9 and the 10? So João Pedro is a really good example of that, right? If you watched him for Watford, he played all over the place. Evan Ferguson is a number 9. That's all he's going to do. And he can improve his back to goal play. But if De Zerbi just really focuses on that being the system, it might prove to be worth moving on at some point in the future to take the money. But who knows? He's very exciting, as you've seen.
Yeah, he is. I think there'll be a few clubs looking at him. That's for sure. I know we've been linked with him before, very tentatively, but a good season with yourselves next year, and I think Man United, I think, have been there. There's
a rumor as well of a Champions League clause in his contract as well. Like there was talk over here in Ireland when he went on international duty that there is a Champions League clause in his contract. So if any team from the Champions League does come in, the Brighton do have to obviously have to talk. So it'll be interesting if he has a breakout year, especially in the Europa League this year with Brighton. Like you said, Newcastle, Chelsea. If Jackson doesn't work this year, there could be a couple of clubs that could come in for him.
Oh, I really hope he doesn't go to Chelsea. Poor guy, it's going to ruin his career, isn't it? They wouldn't want to wish that on anyone. We've always been, and maybe not the right time to say this because of the Moises Caicedo thing, but Brighton has always been a very, very open club about allowing players to treat it as a bit of a stepping stone, with respect to the club, knowing that there are bigger clubs out there. And they've tried to never stand in the way, managers, coaches, players. And I think that would be the same. I wouldn't be shocked if he decided that he wants to move on and they get the right offer, they'll make it work. But they're not just going to pull their pants down because another club come in and want to buy him.
Interesting, very interesting. I think there might be one or two questions before we move on with regards to Brighton. I think there was one, and you might have already answered it actually.
Sorry, Peace. I was on mute then. I was chatting away and I was trying to tell you, but I was on mute. There is a question from Mark Todd, which I'll throw up, but I just wanted to quickly, and this is from a fantasy football point of view, Adam, so I need your help here.
Yeah. Oh, God, you're asking the wrong guy, but I'm so bad at it. Go on.
I've added Verbruggen as my number one. I wanted to know what you thought of him. I did watch him during the friendly at the summer series, and his distribution looked pretty decent, and he was good with the ball, certainly from what I saw. But I wanted to know your overall thoughts on Verbruggen. And I also wanted to know, I know you touched on João Pedro before, but do you see João Pedro starting? I know he's had a really good pre-season, but do you think he's going to break into that first team straight away?
Yeah. And so I saw someone else ask in the chat, I don't know if this is a question you were talking about, but it was like, shouldn't Brighton be spending big right now? Like, because, rather than it all going to Bloom's bank balance and whatnot. I'll just answer it quickly. We are. Like, we've spent a lot of money on Verbruggen as one. João Pedro, I think, broke the transfer record. Kudus would again break the transfer record. We're Brighton and Hove Albion. Like, this is spending big. These are numbers we've never seen before. So yeah, we absolutely are. And then when it comes to like Verbruggen, yeah. So I was like how far away? 20 feet away from him at the game in the preseason game, and I've never seen a guy as calm as that guy with a press coming onto him like you guys were pressing on him for someone his age. And that's all about he's immediately picked up the De Zerbi system. There's a reason we spent a lot of money on him. I know Vincent Kompany and Burnley really wanted him, and he very, very, very nearly went there as well. Incredibly calm with the ball at his feet, like seemingly very level-headed, and not just reliant on his hands and shot stopping like Robert Sanchez was for us, for example. From a fantasy standpoint, would I put a Brighton defender or goalkeeper in the team. It's not the Graham Potter Brighton now anymore. Solid at the back, don't concede, don't score very many. It's De Zerbi's Brighton. Score 2 more than the other team. So if you're hoping for clean sheet points in fantasy football, I would steer you away. Especially because I think Jason Steele will probably still start the season, and they'll switch him out for the Cups, even though he just made a horrendous mistake in a preseason game yesterday. And then with João Pedro, do I think he starts? We paid a lot of money for him. He's young and he might not play every single game, but with the rotation that's needed, yeah, he's going to be a big part. He also took the penalty in the preseason game against Rayo Vallecano yesterday. Our penalty taker has gone to Liverpool. And it was ages for us to find a penalty taker. We were so bad at them. So I'd be shocked if João Pedro, and I think for his price in fantasy football, he's really reasonable. And I think for your third striker or something, I'm going to lob him in there.
Yeah,
I'm surprised if he still starts the season for you guys. I'll be honest with you. He fills me with confidence when we play Brighton, because I don't see him as a keeper that we like, a goalkeeper that we like necessarily fear. You know, like with like De Gea over the years, and it'll be a certain extent with Onana now as well. Alisson, of course, and I had that. I don't know about you, Chris, but I had that a little bit with Sanchez. When Brighton had Sanchez, no, because he's such a good shot stopper. I don't have that. I don't have that same fear factor with Steele. So the fact that you brought a new goalkeeper in and he might not be your first choice, like it just seems a bit of a strange one to me. But
he's 20 years old, so yeah, like he's. I think throwing him in straight away, maybe like he might start. I don't know if he's going to start this weekend, which is crazy to say that we're saying this weekend. Thank God it's back. But yeah, like I do think Steele was really, really impressive. Steele is not the long-term answer. There's no doubt about that. But he's shown he can play De Zerbi's system very, very well. De Zerbi doesn't care about a shot stopper. Like, of course, it's important to stop shots as a keeper. He is the guy that starts every single attacking move, and that's what's important. So even if you're not scared about like, is Steele going to stop most of the stuff that we pepper the goal with? Maybe not. But you should be scared about him picking out a pass that means that we're sprung on a counter attack. That's the whole point of the keeper in De Zerbi's system. And Steele is very good at that, even though he's not going to be doing it, you know, even maybe towards the middle or end of the season when Verbruggen comes in.
Okay, Chris, I think you might have a question to round this up.
Yes, I do, and it's from Mark Todd. So, as Mark Todd says, are Brighton the next Southampton? Are they going to just buy and sell players, or take a stand and not sell and compete? I mean, to be fair, we're kind of half seeing that with Caicedo, aren't we? But do you think you'll dig your heels in? Do you think you're going to be like a selling club, or do you think it would have to be top dollar and then you'll reinvest?
Yeah, it's being called next Southampton is scary, right? But you also wouldn't have said this years, because for a long period of time, Southampton were looked at as like great youth system, always make a profit on their players, always in the Premier League. Like you say that and you'd be like, oh, great, next Southampton. Yeah, I want to be next Southampton. No, I think there's a slight difference just in terms of how the ownership works at Brighton. Like, and that's probably why, you know, your Ashworths of the world and other parts of the management structure have been poached from various other clubs, because it is so well run and is always thinking about the next step. There's always a pipeline of other players coming in. That's why we're talking about Caicedo now. Next year, you might be talking about another player that Brighton have signed that we aren't even thinking about right now. Simon Adingra, for example, who will feature this season too. Could it happen? Yeah, absolutely. But I think the hope here is to actually have a bit more of a model that's closer to like one of these clubs that does it year in, year out, and is still listed as a selling club, like a Dortmund, like an Ajax. But they're always consistent with that and don't blow it all up, which is what Southampton have done.
Last little one before we come on to the next club. First 5 games of the season: Luton at home, Wolves away, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, and Man United away. How many points do you see yourself having after those first 5 games?
Yeah, I'm just glad we got a really easy start to the season. It's. I think the first 3 is not. We have to get 9 points. Like that's Luton, Wolves, and West Ham. And I'm upset that Lawless isn't here because I give him shit. West Ham was our easiest game last year. It was an absolute walk in the park. And Luton at home, I'd have been scared if it was Luton away, because they've got that, you know, that first day, all the fans would be. Nah, I think we were right there. And Wolves look abject, don't they, as well? At home to Newcastle, I mean, I think it'll be a close one. I don't feel confident about it. And away at Man U, I don't know, we just have to lob Onana and we should be all right.
Hey, look what you done last year. You actually helped us last year improve. That was a blessing in disguise.
You're welcome. Yeah. No, I mean, I think the first 3 games are...
So that's a good thing.
Obviously, I think if we win 3 out of those 5, that's amazing. And then if we get a point against, either of you guys, then that's fantastic. But we've got some horrible run-ins. I think everyone has now because the league is so competitive. Well, we've got like runs of games where you just look at the fixture list and you just like, I don't want to play these.
I don't think Keane heard what you said, Adam, about Onana. But
no, it's fine. Yeah, we'll watch it back. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Right, we'll move on to the next club. And look, Errol, state your claim about Liverpool Football Club. And I know you can because you are well voiced around your club. I have to say, unless you've signed anyone else or are close to, I know that it was a bid rejected again for Romeo Lavia, 45 million today. But Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Setven and De Berg, all coming. Sorry,
he's just come back from loan. We had him anyway. We've had him for
But is he going to be in your first team?
No, you'll be lucky if he gets in and around the cup squads. That's pretty much his level, to be honest. I'm going to take a 2-pronged approach to this and say I'm going to break down the off-season / transfer window in 2 parts. Okay. When we got the early lads through the door, so obviously McAllister and Szoboszlai, I felt like that's good business on Liverpool's part, simply because we already knew that Naby Keita was going. We knew Oxlade-Chamberlain was going. We knew James Milner was going. We knew Firmino was going. So we knew the players that we was expecting to leave. So that then brought in 2 new lads that were then going to replace those minutes. And then it also gave the opportunity for the elder statesman now to kind of transition. I always assumed that Henderson would be the heir to the role that James Milner used to fulfill for us, in the sense that you're a bit of a utility player, you're an ever-present in the squad, you're always reliable, you'll always be there as the club captain in and around match days. And if I need to play you as a makeshift right back, you can do that. If I need to play you in the 6, you can do that. If I need to play you in the right of midfield, so on and so forth. So I just felt like that'll give a new lease of life to some of these other lads transitioning into other positions for us, or having to play other roles and kind of acclimatize to other expectations. And then we get these bids from Saudi clubs that just completely, I think they definitely blindside every Liverpool fan. I think they probably blindside Jurgen Klopp and the backroom staff in regards to their preparations and their plans. Oh, hello. Here we are. As soon as I open my mouth, you want to pop up.
Yeah, save everyone, innit? Stop you.
Lawless in the house. He's only I think he waited. He waited until you started talking and then, but you know what? I'm coming on now. How are we, fella? You okay? Though, so when I look at it, I think that was probably a pivotal moment in terms of it just kind of changing the trajectory of how our summer transfer window was going. Because what looked like we needed probably one more addition in midfield, as in an understudy to Fabinho, what he offers us, get somebody in that can kind of learn the system without having the pressure of week in, week out games to have to do it and deliver. Fabinho, hopefully now he's got new lads around and will have this fresh impetus with fresh legs. That means he's not having to cover all bases defensively, and it means he's able to just do exactly what it is. I heard a brilliant shout the other day online, and it was, we Liverpool fans knew Fabinho was the lighthouse. That was what Jurgen Klopp and the backroom staff called him. He was the lighthouse because he was always scanning and he'd had everything on lock. And the rumour came out the other day that we was going for Dewsbury Hall.
And everyone just turned around and went, how have we gone from a White House to a wedding chapel venue in the space of 20 weeks? And that's literally where we're currently at. We're scrambling around to now bring in somebody that can replace these elder statesmen, these figureheads that have brought experience, world-class quality at times. Did we see enough of that last season? Absolutely not. It was in short measure. That meant for me that these lads had to step up. But in order to help them step up, you need to give them fresh legs. You need to give them new players around them that are fit for purpose, that actually can deliver on the pitch. Now, I've said on multiple shows over the summer, I'm not going to be sticking my chest out to say this Liverpool team are going to recreate what previous Klopp teams have done. Because until I see this midfield gel with the team and put in a body of work or a run of games together so I can actually call back to as a bit of evidence, I've got nothing to go off. I've just got hopes and vibes. And hopes and vibes are cool, but you're not going to win a league on hopes and vibes, in my opinion. So this season's going to be difficult for us. I think it's going to be, we've already seen the game tonight, the game against Bayern. We're going to be I think we've got the most potent front line in the Prem. By far, and I see my man there look and think, really, you think that? I'll be honest with you, we've got 5 really top end forwards. Salah speaks for himself. His numbers for the last 5-6 years speak for themselves. I think Diogo Jota in the box. There's probably only Haaland, really, maybe Ivan Toney, maybe Harry Kane that I can think of that are that clinical in the league. I think Darwin Núñez is going to have an exceptional season. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of his doubters. And the one out of the front 5 that I think Gakpo's just a gift. He genuinely is a gift. He came in and been able to do the Firmino role unbelievable. And I think and made it his own. The one I've got the most reservations about, and most Liverpool fans think I'm a madman for saying it, is Luis Diaz. I think Luis Diaz is an exceptional talent. I just don't think he fits in the system, that the 4-3-3 that we've had. However, if Klopp is now moving to this new system, is that because players like Luis Diaz, he thinks he can get more out of them in this new particular way of doing things? So again, I'm going to reserve judgment on his impact. I think he's a quality player. I'm just not convinced he's a system player for Jurgen Klopp. We can't take that away from the fact that we've probably got the most potent front line. It's going to be that midfield. It's going to be defence where we're going to have most of the questions for us Liverpool this season. And until defensively we can shut the door and manage games, and until I see that midfield engine room really ticking over nicely and gelling, I'm not going to be sticking my neck out on any stream saying Liverpool are going to be banging on the door for a title challenge. I expect us to be in those European spots. And for redemption's sake, and from a Liverpool perspective, we can't afford to do 2 seasons out of the Champions League. So that has got to be the minimum threshold and expectation for us this season.
Interesting. Really interesting. I'm surprised you said Luis Diaz. I've got to be honest, because in the back of my mind, I don't know what you guys think. I had Darwin Núñez. I'm still not convinced on him.
And that's fine. I like that though. I like that because for me, I think he's an instinctive striker and he gets chances. His movement is excellent, and when he doesn't have to actually think about it, he's got all types of finishes on him, and that's what I like about him. He reminds me of Daniel Sturridge in the way that, don't get me wrong, Sturridge was class and his brain and his feet were in sync. As long as he was fit, he was on song. But he reminds me of the fact that Daniel Sturridge could score every single type of goal. He might not get you 20 headers a season, but if you put it on a plate, he's going to score you a header. And Darwin Núñez is very similar in that sense. If you create the chance for him and he doesn't have to think about it, he doesn't have to take too many touches, he doesn't have to weigh up either laying off for a simple pass or taking it round the keeper, I think he scores more than he misses for us this season. But, well, he's still going to miss a shitload. But in terms of serious chances and very clear-cut chances, I think he's going to have. I think he's going to have a breakout season for us by all accounts.
Keane, I'm going to come to you on this as the Man United fan in the house. I want you, in your opinion, do you think Liverpool are going to be up there challenging this season based on what Errol said and from your opinion?
I think they will. I think they definitely, like you said, around the European slots, I think they definitely will. If you look at their front 3, especially Mo Salah, he's a player who who will get him over the line no matter what. And like I seen a lot of Liverpool fans last season actually gave him pelters when he was still scoring goals. Now I know maybe some performances might have been the best, but like he's clinical, and he's one of them players. When the chips are down, you need him, and like, when you have a player like that, you can get anywhere. I think for me, the big thing is, where does Trent play this year? I think when Klopp moved him kind of into that hybrid role last year, he done well. And I think they need to find the right mix for Trent. Is he going to be a right back? Is he going to be a midfielder? Or is he going to, like he said, like Errol said, is he going to alter the system? That's what I'm interested to see this year. Also as well, I haven't seen much rumours, and Errol might educate me in this, I haven't seen much rumours on Liverpool buying centre-backs this year. I know Van Dijk is unbelievable. I was wondering, do they have a contingency in place if he gets injured? You know, because we've seen what happened the last time.
Absolutely. This was well, not necessarily. I've made this point on any stream, but this is what I would have done. Even at a break glass, if you let Henderson go, keep Fabinho, because Fabinho's multifaceted in the sense that you can drop him into your back line. If for whatever reason Matip goes injured or Canate gets injured, you could drop Fabinho in that back line next to Virgil van Dijk. And I think between the two of them, we would look defensively sound by and large. I think we've seen enough of Fabinho to know, even when there wasn't Virgil van Dijk there, he was able to come in and do a job. If you put him next to Virg, that the chances of that being a better job probably go up by 10, 15, 20%. Maybe you get more of an output from the both of them. We let Fabinho go. To me, we've only been linked. We was linked with Gahey very early doors. From Crystal Palace. They were shut down. I think they wanted ridiculous money for him. I think we was linked with the kid from Chelsea as well. Chelsea were never going to sell him. I think that was Colwell.
Yeah, Leaf. He was our player that we never got.
Yeah, so they was never going to sell him to us. And then I think, is it Incenso or something? Incenso, I think he plays.
Your man from Sporting Lisbon.
Sporting Lisbon, yeah, he plays in Portugal. Yeah, I think he's like a left-sided centre back, as well as a bit of an understudy. I think the interesting thing at the minute, I think a lot of Liverpool fans are saying, is it's that left side of centre-back role. If we're going to move Trent into midfield, it doesn't fully complement Robbo. Now, Robbo's been an excellent servant, but it's not that system. At the minute, I think we're playing a system that benefits the minority, but doesn't necessarily suit the majority, whereas the previous system seemed to have suited the majority, but I think we'd plateaued. And it was like, you've got the most out of that system. So how do we get an extra 10, 15% again? And it's challenging them to now get more players to fall and suit this new system while still being able to extract the best out of Trent, Luis Diaz, getting the most out of Gakpo and Nunes up top. So there's right now, the best way to sum it up, and it's not really an analogy, sorry, Lisa Love, but there are more questions. there are more questions for Liverpool than answers at this moment in time. And I think that's fair. And until we start putting it in on the pitch, you'd be a madman to turn around and say Liverpool are going to win the league or going to walk anything. The one wild
Europa League, surely.
Well, this is what I was about. You led me on to my point. So the wild, sorry, mate. The wild take that I'm going to do. Liverpool are going to have an absolutely balmy season. We're either going to bomb out of everything miserably, and it's going to be entertaining because there's going to be goals left, right, and centre, both ends of the pitch, or we are going to go out of our way and we're going to do the shit quad. It's just sod's law. We will do the shit quad this season. We will win the Prem. We will win Europa. We will win the Carabao Cup, and we will win the FA Cup. And don't clip that and make that a statement like I'm saying it. That's the alternate timeline that happens this season, and it's Liverpool's way. That when we're not in the Champions League, we win everything that we're possibly capable of winning.
At the end of the Avengers movie, they're like, there's a gazillion different like alternate realities, and this only succeeds in one. I still don't think you do that. Even if you have infinite different realities, I don't know one's beating City, especially not Liverpool.
I can dream, can't I? That's the lofty heights that my mind goes to, and I think that'd be just our luck. It'd be written in some stars somewhere that when we could have won it all, we flopped and we only win 2. Then City win a treble, and then we bounce back and decide to win everything, but we're not in the Champions League.
I'm going to throw this up here. Dominic Zavasly again, Alex McAllister. Chris, I'm going to come to you, and I want to get your thoughts, Lawless, because I know you've always got an opinion on Liverpool with regards to their fight this season. Chris, as the resident Scouser in the room, from a Geordie perspective, Do you think Liverpool have got enough to mount a challenge this season? Not just for the title, but for the top four?
I think they've definitely got enough to challenge for the top four because, as Evil said, going forward, they're very, very dangerous. My concerns for Liverpool this season are probably the whole confusion over Trent. Is he going to be playing midfield? Is he staying right back and then drifting into the midfield, which we've seen Pep do at City, with the advancing fullbacks? Or I suppose the other concern for Liverpool as well is the leadership. Like, they've lost some key names. Some Liverpool fans would say, oh, we can do without Milner, or we can do without Fabinho, or we can do without Firmino, but probably big characters in the dressing room. And I just wonder how they're going to cope with that. Like Szoboszlai, we've studied Szoboszlai a hell of a lot, Errol. So we're excited for you in terms of him. And McAllister is going to be a good addition to the centre of midfield, but I just wonder whether you really need that right centre back. I think you need that partner next to Van Dijk. Now I know you've got Konate and Gomez, but I just wonder whether that could be a problem, especially with Trent, his future being so uncertain. I think, is it fair to say, Errol, you were all expecting like a top draw right back to come in, which would then free up Trent, but we've just not seen that, have we?
Not necessarily. I don't think we was, to be honest, because we got a young lad last season. I think Ramsey, young lad. He got injured halfway through the season, and then he was recovering and to make his way back. I think he went back out on loan as well for this season. So, and then there's another lad that we've got. That's another understudy for Trent. Again, these kids are coming from the academy, so the young lads. I think the key for that defensive area is the right side of the centre back. Someone who can come in, because that's the most important job, because you've got to do two jobs. You've got to, if we're going to drop Trent into the middle, it's almost like saying we're going to go to a 3 at the back, and we're going to now basically have Trent in midfield, and we're going to push everybody up, kind of up the pitch 10-15 yards. And I think from that perspective, that right side of centre back's got to then come around and cover in those spaces that gets exposed. I thought with Szoboszlai coming in, that's another person that's on that right hand side that can drop in and kind of help and cover and rotate. It's kind of got to be on a bit of an axis. The three of them have all kind of got to work in sync with each other to fill in and cover that spatial awareness, cover that gap, and still have that expectation that Trent at sometimes in some games when we're not flooded with possession and we're not flooded with the ball, you're going to have to sit. You're going to have to sit in sometimes as well. So I don't think the expectation was ever to have a right back out and out come in, because you're almost then asking them, what job do you want to do? Are you going to go down the conservative route and be more like Joe Gomez when you play in that role? Or are we going to expect you to try and do what Trent does, knowing full well there are only a finite number of fullbacks, even in world football, footballers, even in world football, that can put the deliveries that Trent Alexander-Arnold can do into the box. Some kids just said Bobby Clark having a breakthrough season. So there's a lot of, as I say, more questions than answers, bro. More questions than answers.
Talk about Bobby Clark, man. You stole him from us just before the takeover. He's a Geordie. He's a Geordie, man. He should be wearing black and white. I'm not having that. We need to sign him back. We get Liverpool, man. He's a Geordie. He's Lee Clark is a Geordie. He was part of our entertainers. That's his son. He should be playing for Newcastle. Not happy about that at all. He needs to see out his contract and come back to us. That's what I say. But Lawless, your thoughts on Liverpool? Are they? Errol mentioned the quad. Not the good quad, the alternative quad. Are they really equipped for that?
I know, like Errol thinks like they're just gonna piss this Europa League, yeah. But you do. You're sitting there. You lost your mind when I said that I would rather face Liverpool than Brighton in the Europa League. I would rather,
because that's disrespectful. Liverpool. That is out and out disrespectful.
How? Talk. I don't know how that's disrespectful. For one, like I said, we have a terrible record against Brighton. And for two, especially in finals, Klopp has a bit of a record of choking in finals as well. So, listen, but we don't have the record. I'm just saying, Jurgen Klopp, the track record is there. The track record is there. He's got that record. So, obviously, look, Brighton haven't got to, the finals and all of that stuff. But, like I said, they're a team that if I had to bet my life on us beating any team, it would not be Brighton, right? So, but you were so confident. Oh yeah, we're the big boys in this competition. right? But what you don't realize is so many of these teams like you that feel like your club is too big for this competition. You look at the track record. They haven't won it often. Man United won it, like 7 years ago? Yeah, once. Chelsea have won it twice in, their 20 years. So I think like, it's going to be a bit of a wake-up call.
I don't think it'll be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I do feel as though, especially with the Europa League concerned, we have to take it serious. I think the problem with the other clubs that you've mentioned, they didn't have the mentality to actually take it serious at the time. They felt that their caliber of players were going to carry them to...
The only time Man United took it seriously was when Jose was manager and he was desperate to get a trophy in his first season. That was the only time. Ten Hag kind of mixed teams in the Europa League last year, and then we got injuries. Well, obviously Martinez was out, and then obviously Sevilla Europa League specialists. But like,
Jose sort of really went for it when he realized that top four was like he sort of gambled. He was like, top four is going to be a bit of a stretch.
January he just shut up shop and went for the Europa League. Then
are you trying to say that the Man U last year phoned in the Europa? They definitely tried. They just lost. Of course they tried. They got beat.
I think they would have liked to have done better and tried. Like, but I think they would have. But I think it's an application thing with the Europa League, especially for the teams that feel as though they're too good to be in it. I feel like a mindset that you need to instill that from the first day of preseason. That like, regardless of what you think of where you are, this is the hand you've been dealt, and in order to prove anything different, you have to go the distance, and that takes consistency and commitment from day one. You can't just turn up and think that you're going to beat Sevilla, who have been drilled, who have practiced for let their league form go to shit, and have practiced for the last 3 weeks watching tapes of you lads to have 90 or 180 minutes to give it their all. And you think you can just turn up the day of on a Thursday night and just roll them over? That will never happen. You will get found out in the Europa League if you do that. And I just hope Liverpool, the people in and around the backroom staff, have watched enough of the footage of other teams falling flat on the face to actually realise, do you know what? We need to take this serious, and that's the expectation. We should go on to do very well in that competition.
I think you're completely right. But do you think Liverpool have got the squad depth going into this year to get top four in the league and also make a run in the Europa? Because that fourth place is going to be really hard to get. And we talked about Alexis McAllister. He looks great. Sobsalai's look good whenever we've seen him play as well. But are those the signings you make to cement like a top four finish after last year? Like, it feels like the other clubs around you have done better business.
It's a very good question. And honestly, until I see how those lads perform in a Liverpool shirt and the lads around them kick on, i.e. the Trents, the Nunez's, it's going to be too difficult for me to make an educated guess, an assumption. I think the thing in terms of the Europa League, I think because we're not too far removed, and because of that front line that I spoke about, those five aren't going to play, in every single Prem game. So there will be two of those big hitters getting minutes in the Europa League at some point, and one of them might, it could be Nunez. Nunez could be, I'd love him in an ideal world to be the guy leading the line in the Prem and getting 20 plus goals, but he could be the guy that's in the Europa League and he just eats for fun. And that could be, the level where he's just too comfortable and too good for the defence.
I don't think anyone's concerned about your front line. I don't disagree. I know I raised my eyebrows when you talked about the front line, but it probably is the best in the league. But the rest of it...
But that's what I'm saying. But then from a midfield perspective, I think we've got still enough rotational options that will get us to hopefully the knockout stages. If we can navigate ourselves to the knockout stages, and that's when you've got to weigh up, where are we in the league? How much control do we have in terms of our fate? Is it still in our hands that we can mathematically finish in fourth? Great. Let's keep running and keeping, our eye on the prize. And then how do we now start drip feeding some of the more senior, authoritative players in when we're coming up against the likes of West Ham, we're coming up against Villarreal, or we're coming up against Brighton, or whoever it may be further down the line in Europa League? I think that's a conversation for as and when we get out those group stages, how we choose to navigate it. Have we got the squad depth to get out the group stages? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm going to hold that Liverpool talk because we're going to move on because we've got some other clubs I want to get through. Just really quickly, there are clubs that we're going to talk about that are not here tonight representing. They may well do in future Battleground Europes. But Lawless, I want you to talk to me really, really quickly about this club's chances of fighting for the title? Because Potts isn't here. Potts couldn't make it tonight. Unfortunately, he had other things that he needed to do, prior engagements. They've obviously got a player you know well, Declan Rice. They've got Kai Havertz. They've got Timber in the door, maybe one or two more on the way. They've got the Community Shield in the back pocket after yesterday. In your opinion, do you think that they are equipped to push for the title next season?
Well, if you listen to them, they're winning everything. They're winning everything. They've won the prestigious Charity Shield or Community Shield, whatever they call it now, the biggest trophy in world football. Like, it's a charity game for a fucking plate, for a dish that you would serve a roast dinner on.
Hey, no, you can't say nothing about the decoration of a trophy. I pulled you up on that the other day. You can't come back and say.
No, it don't matter because ours is still what? Ours is just the same, but it don't have a handle. You could fucking.
Oh, it's a vase. You got a vase?
No, you could glue 2 fucking handles on it, and it looks like what you would say is a tray. This is a plate. This is a bit of crockery. Well, it's not crockery because it's fucking metal, but still, it's a friendly. It's not an actual trophy. And all these little Arsenal fans are so predictable. Oh, it's more prestigious than your one you won. Ours is officially a major trophy. Yours is to raise money for charity. Yeah, it's not that deep. And you didn't even beat City. You went to penalties. So in the 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever the hell they added on. So yeah, I think Declan Rice looks like. It's going to take him time to adjust and adapt. I think it's going to take him a bit of time. Obviously, he got hooked off by Arteta, and it seems that Partey is the better fit. And them two playing together, it just seems like a weird option because they're filling a similar function. So seems a bit lost higher up the pitch, Rice. So either he's going to take time to adapt, or he just won't fit at all. Time will tell. But yeah, I don't think they're winning the league like they feel like they're winning the league. I think Timber looks like a promising player, but yeah, I think the Champions League football, it's their first season back in the Champions League, and they're throwing their chest out. And oh man, just relax. Honestly, I can't stand that fan base. They actually make me sick. Sorry, any Arsenal fans.
Tell us how you really feel, Lawless.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like they're just embarrassing, man. And don't force rivalries. You're forcing a rivalry with Arsenal, right? I ain't fucking looked in their direction all summer. Every time there's a West Ham story, look at all the comments underneath Arsenal fans. Oh, you shouldn't have asked so much money for Rice. You should have just took what we offered. Now shut up. You really? Why did you have to ask me about Arsenal?
This is exactly the reason why I asked you about Arsenal, for this exact reason, because I knew you come with the truth. You come with the truth, Lawless. You give us our honest.
Someone needs to tell him. And this is what I'm saying. You know what annoys me about Potts as well? Every time I try and give it to him, he's like, "Oh, it's not me. It's not me. It's them. It's not me. I don't say it. Well, listen, mate. You're there, so you're gonna have to take that."
Guilty by association.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, give me one of the deluded ones then.
You're pulling Potts up on RICO charges.
yeah, exactly. Listen, he don't want to bring in the deluded Arsenal fans, which there are many, so he's gonna have to take the brunt of it.
Fair play. I'm sure we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail tomorrow night. There's no doubt about it. But one word answer from all of you guys, really quickly. We're not going to cover this team in too much detail. They're the Premier League champions, Man City. Are they going to do an historic 4-peat this season? Are they going to do it 4 times in a row? Chris, I'll come to you first.
No.
Errol?
My heart's saying no, but my head's saying yeah. And I'm going to go with as it stands today, I'm going to go with my head. So yeah, they will.
Okay. Keen?
No.
Lawless?
Yes, they're doing it.
Adam?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go yes. People in the chat, let us know your opinion. Are Man City going to do the 4-peat? Are they going to make it a historic 4 in a row this season? Just before we move on, massive shout out to a new member, Stanley Waters. Thank you for coming and joining the Lodi family and becoming a member to the channel. And we have to recognize
Super chat received.
we have to recognize the super chats in the house. So, Colin, thank you for your £5 donation. Much appreciated.
Cheers, Colin.
How many times, every show, you give a super chat, but you never put a question in? Give us a question, and for any of the boys on the panel, and we'll get it out to you. But thank you for your donation. Now, I wasn't going to come to this club right now, but I will, because there's a lot of talk around you at the moment and stuff coming out tonight. So, Lawless, we're going to come to you, West Ham United, the Europa Conference champions of Europe. We have to big you up there.
Take a bow, son. Take a bow.
Yeah, fair play to you. Lots of us didn't think you were going to do it. You did. You got that trophy in Europe. However, this is all we've got to show for it this summer. You've got 2 loans that have come back to you. You haven't got anyone in the door as yet. However,
well, Vlasic is just gone, by the way. We've just agreed to deal with Torino, so he's out the door.
Okay. Edson Alvarez, I sent it to you earlier on today. Been agreed. Just come through, and Chris, you put it in the chat earlier, just a few minutes ago. Sky Sports have confirmed West Ham have made a 30 million bid for Scott McTominay. That came out in the last 6 or 7 minutes. So that's the breaking news at this point in time. This is your opportunity, Lawless, to state your claim for West Ham United. You're in Europe this season when nobody thought you would be. What is the aim for you this season, in your opinion? Where do you think you're going to end up? And are you going to be on the rise up the top end of the table in 23-24? State your claim.
State my claim. Look, obviously, I haven't been feeling the most confident and the most happy with what I've been seeing us do in the business or lack thereof. We got that 105 mil for Rice, and then we just can't seem to decide where to spend it. Moyes wants the British Prem-proven players, and our director of football wants to find more exciting players in Europe. So we haven't signed anyone, but Moyes seems to have thrown a hissy fit. He seems to be really determined to get Maguire and McTominay. And, I mean, he's put in a bid, 30 million each for Maguire and McTominay. And Man United, like the idiots they are, will probably reject it. If I was them, I would snatch it and run for the hills. But they'll probably reject it. Apparently, Ten Hag wants to keep McTominay. So, yeah. Bit mad to me, because I look at it and I do think both of them. I think there's a good player in McTominay. He just doesn't excite me. I don't see that he's going to elevate us like some other West Ham see. He's going to elevate us. Maguire is on a ridiculous amount of money. I can't see him taking a massive pay cut to come to West Ham.
150 grand pay cut apparently he has to take.
50.
150. West Ham only went off for 100 grand.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. Yeah, and I can't see him taking that. I can't see him taking 150 mil. And I just think there's better value out there than Harry Maguire. Like, yeah, he has some good qualities, but it's not worth it. Go and do your scouting. But if I looked at it, right, and what we can do this season, I can only base it on the fact that we haven't signed anyone, right? We've just lost. Scamacca has gone to Atalanta, so just sold Scamacca.
What do you think about it? Do you think that's a little bit premature, or do you think it was the right time to cash it back in for him to move him on?
There's no choice. He was a homesick Italian, didn't adjust to life over here, desperate to go back to Italy. So there was no sense really keeping him. I really rated him. I'm really disappointed to lose him. But it's one of them ones. What can you do, really? And I don't think he was enamored with Moyes' football, to be honest. So
are you going to be upset when he scores the winner in the Europa League to knock you guys out for Atalanta, or is it going to be? Are you going to feel happy for him?
I'll feel upset, but I'll feel vindicated slightly after I get over it. I'll feel vindicated in my support for him. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, the only reason I can make a case for us, right, this season is the the fact that we were in the Europa League last time, our squad wasn't too dissimilar, apart from the fact we had Declan Rice. Moyes seems to prefer working with a small squad. We finished 6th, a few points off of the top 4, and we got to the semi-final in the Europa League. So that is the only real positive I can draw from it. But if we get Alvarez over the line, I said, look, I need to see him play. I can't fully get excited about players until I see them, because you get all hyped up and then it just don't work out. But he seems like a real good fit for West Ham. He seems like he's got the credentials. There's certain metrics he's better than Rice in. So if we get another good, depends what we want. We see how we see Paqueta. If we see Paqueta as an 8, like him and Paqueta could complement each other perfectly. If we put Paqueta in the 10, then I want to see someone else there that complements Alvarez. So
Who's your captain now? He's making an announcement.
Well, it was supposed to be Creswell, but he went and he's on strike. So
What for?
yeah, he wants to leave. He wants to go to Wolves or Nottingham Forest. So
Someone's going on strike to go to Wolves. No, I did. Can you do the opposite?
yeah, I know, isn't it?
Dad is in the chat watching. Clip it, man. Clip it. Jesus Christ.
That,
So little Dad, Lawless, little Dad will be all on that.
Yeah.
He'll be all on it.
Who's going
Can
to
you imagine being that desperate to join a sinking ship? Honestly.
He's coming for you. You know he's coming for you after that.
He's got to know it. Who did we put earlier in the chat? They're replacing Lopetegui with Gary O'Neill, apparently. So,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah. So yeah. Go on. Good luck to you, Creswell. Good luck.
Who's your
So yeah,
captain?
we ain't got a captain right now. Which is my worry is that Moyes is going to sign Maguire and stick the armband, which would be a trap.
Yeah.
It'd be an absolute piss take.
I'm gonna come. We're gonna come back. I want to get Keane's thoughts on this.
I think you'd agree that he's been a shit captain for Man United. To be fair, I think he has. I think as captains go, I think he's been a really poor captain, and just because he's captain at always captain at Man United, like Moyes seems to still have this like fucking hard on for Man United for some reason, even though he was there for like 9 months and got dumped out like for being so shit. Like,
I think that's part of the problem with Moyes though, because I think he thinks just because you can't make it at Man U doesn't mean that you can't be great in football. And I think it's his way of projecting that now through the players. It's like, I've been there myself. I know the level that I was at and I didn't quite hit the heights, but I still had faith in myself that I would rebuild my career. And now look at me, I'm a European Cup winning manager. I can do the same now with the X and Y player. And I think that's where it probably stems from, maybe.
Maybe.
Breaking news. Keane, you've just put something in our private chat. I don't know if you want to share it with the rest of the panel.
Yeah, so it looks like Samuel Luckhurst in Manchester Evening News just reported there that West Ham have had a 30 million bid for Scott McTominay rejected by United. He understands offers weren't a joint bid for McTominay and Harry Maguire, but it looks like it's possible that West Ham can make another bid for Harry Maguire. So I'd say from United's perspective right now, it looks like they're probably going to keep McTominay, because when you look at United's midfield at the minute, Fred looks like to be leaving at the end of the week, and Van de Beek looks to be going to Real Sociedad as well. With Kobbie Mainoo who's also injured at the minute. So in terms of numbers in that kind of number 8 position, we'd be running a bit low, obviously outside of Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount and Eriksen. So it looks like he's probably going to keep him until based off numbers. So you're looking at probably more of an attacking threat out of probably all of them. McTominay is probably the better goal scoring midfielder out of Fred, Joe, Van de Beek and McTominay. So look, to be honest, from an FFP standpoint, if you're looking at selling McTominay being an academy player, for us to balance the books, it'd be great. But also, like, I look at David Moyes and look how kind of the physical, kind of defensive football he wants to play. And all jokes aside about Harry Maguire kind of like failing at United, like it hasn't been the best of time for him. I think if you look at West Ham and the way Moyes wants to play, he's tailor-made to play that type of football. Now, whether West Ham fans want to play a bit more silkier football, which is fair enough. I think if you look just solely on what Wayne Moyes likes to play, I think Harry Maguire will be suited to that system. I'm not just saying this so we can go off and buy Tobito in the morning, like, but
you better not. You better not. I'm not happy about this. Tadebo is a player that we've talked about unloading a lot, and he's a quality centre back. I love him at Newcastle.
The problem is, Keane, is Moyes is on a 1-year deal. So if we signed Maguire, I don't mind if Moyes really wants to play this shit football. Obviously, I'd rather he play better football, but get the right players in for it. But Moyes on 1 year left in his contract. I can't see him being here for too much longer. So we sign all these shit Moyes players, and then we want to progress with Tim Steidter, who's a director of football who likes to sign more players to play attractive football. Like if we went and got Xavi Alonso right from Leverkusen, and we wanted to go that way, we've stuck with Maguire and that, and you're not getting rid of that guy.
Look at Maguire's struggles the last 12 months.
What's that?
Where's this Xavi fetish come from?
It's not. What do you mean the Xavi fetish?
The last 2 times we spoke, every manager's name that's come out of your mouth is Xabi Alonso. When we get Xabi, who's to say my man's going to come to you for what?
Well, who's to say my man's not going to come to us? Who's to say?
You're talking to the club that's just won the storied Europa Conference League.
Yeah,
one of 2 only ever champions. Why wouldn't he go? I think Xabi Alonso could probably do a better job as a holding midfielder than McTominay could. Still,
yeah, exactly. Play a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, why come?
Big play.
Why are you so? What's the
I'm
problem?
not against it. You just seem to have this hard on for my man at the minute, and I'm just thinking, is there something I don't know?
Listen, I ain't got no hard on for your man. Yeah.
There's the analogy right there. Lisa was after it. I love it.
Wait. So when Klopp leaves, when he leaves, because he's obviously not going to be there for the rest of his life, but you ain't going to have a manager go, that's the guy. That's the guy to replace Jurgen Klopp. Yeah? Right? Yeah? You're gonna.
Well, I hope so. One day, I hope there's a few people that we can look at to say that could come in.
Stevie G, lad.
I wouldn't bet on Stevie G coming in to directly replace Klopp. But that's a conversation for another day. Right now, we're talking about your aspirations for this season. Go on.
I'm just what the point is. If we're gonna want a fucking more progressive manager, right, to take over from Moyes,
a better brand.
So we're not gonna want these lumps in the fence that have no legs and just can't move, when we want to play a bit more of a more exciting style of football. So that's why.
I know everyone. It's funny to make fun of Maguire at this point, but I'd be interested also what Keane thinks about this. But there's been a lot. I feel like really revisionist stuff about Maguire because he was incredible at Leicester. He's always does a shift for England.
His first 2 seasons at United, he was good as well. But then once we went to play more front foot football, not counter attack, and then he got found out.
But the West Ham aren't going to get rid of Moyes now. You can't get rid of a manager that's just brought you silver. You can't do that. So would he not be actually a really good fit for short to mid-term?
But you say we can't get rid of him, but if we go on a bad run, we got to get rid of him. We just got to. His job can't be.
But you did go on a bad run. He won silverware the same year.
No, because the reason why they didn't sack him was based on that. They gave him that competition because we was in it, and it was a competition that was winnable. Do you know what I mean? We're in a more difficult competition. So if we play like last season, and say we get into the Europa League, we get knocked out. And we're in a relegation battle. How can you not pull the trigger?
Well, he's just brought you your best season in
ever.
He's
brought us our best achievement in a while.
That's what a manager's for. What's he there for if not?
No, because it's about, and this is the thing. It's about. You can look at that, and you look at that in isolation. Yes, he's done a good job now, but you have to look at the context going forward and the sustainability. Because we were shocking in the league. We were absolutely shocking. And if we carry that into next season, we can't just sit there and go, oh, well, we won the Conference League. You know what I mean? Let's be if we had that
season, some credit in the bank though. There is an extra bit of juice that he now gets as a result of winning. So you can't completely dismiss that. To an extent.
Listen, I love the conference, all of this stuff. I'm glad we won it, right? But say if this was 5 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago even, when the competition didn't even exist, right? And he got that 7th place finish, and then we had a season where we was having that season like we just had, there would be no credit we wouldn't be in Europe, and we'd have had a shit season. He probably would have got sacked, right? So he's fortunate that this competition was invented and it gave him that opportunity. Now, next season, can he? Because the thing is, we were winning every game in Europe, right? Even though we were shit in the league. If he does that again, and we're in Europa League and we're bossing it in Europa League, but we're shit in the league, okay, you can look at that and go, all right, maybe we're just going to be focusing on this competition. We're in that. We've got something to hold on to. But can he do that? Like, I'm sorry, I have to look at the future. We're playing crap football, and our Premier League position is in jeopardy, right? And we have to think about in terms of players wanting to play for us. We've got Paqueta. Do you think Paqueta wants to be part of relegation battles playing shit football?
Wow,
No.
hold on a second.
There is a question there.
Yeah.
No,
this
this
has been rumored for a while, for a few weeks now, that apparently Paqueta wants out. I know he tweeted back and kind of kind of squashed that claim, but even when he did squash it, it's still been lingering around. Does he want out? Is there a Champions League clause, which is another conversation there as well? Like, is that
he's going to go on strike to join Wolves? That's what they're all doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why not? Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah, he wants to join Creswell.
Yeah.
No, I think he's fairly settled for now. I don't think he's enamored with the Moyes way. You know, he's a Brazilian. He likes to play with the ball to his feet. You know, and not this Moyes ball. So I don't think he's enamored with it. I don't think he wants out. And I've got to take him at his word. You know, rather than some bloke from TalkSport who's sort of just guessing. Like, really and truly. But that's what I'm saying. If we have another season like last season, then why wouldn't he want out? And then it's going to be harder to attract players after that. So we have to be ruthless and decisive. If we go through this first month, right, on a poor run.
We've got a tough run of fixtures as well, mate.
Yeah, we got
6 tough ones.
Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, which is a fucking write-off because you guys haven't gotten over that 6-0 battering we gave you like back when we was in the championship, and you guys just have this weird fucking.
My memory doesn't go back that far. I just remember the recent ones. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, isn't it? Of course. Like honestly, I like Brian, but fucking, I hope they get liquidated.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You got Luton in there, Luton away, and then you got Man City.
Yeah,
Liverpool at. Is it Liverpool away, Man City at home? I think it is. You know, and like we always go to Anfield and we play fairly well, but they just do their little Anfield thing.
Which won't matter in Europe, of course, because you know that's not going to.
Well, all right. If it's in Dublin, if we're in the final and it's in Dublin, then
and you don't think that won't feel like Anfield if we're in Dublin?
Oh,
yeah, that's like literally all the Irish United fans in a minute are saying it's destined. No, sorry, Irish Liverpool fans, are saying it's destined to be Liverpool win the Europa League in Dublin. Like even just yesterday, I was at the game with the Aviva, like, and yeah, I wouldn't fancy West Ham in Dublin against Liverpool. Like
there is, we got Dublin Hammers, but we need
there's two of them.
We've got two lads.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are a lot of Man United fans. A lot of people in my family over there are Man United fans, and I hope they would come out in support if there ain't that many. No, actually, to be fair, wait a minute. We're going to travel over there. What are you talking about, Errol? You know, there's things called planes, boats. Yeah? You know, there's them such things about it's going to feel like a home game because it's all Irish.
Do you know how close we are to like we're a stone's throw away? You've got to do
it's a big from London, from South, to get to Dublin. We're going to be like, fuck that. Yeah, Prague, we'll do that. We'll 40,000 turn up in Prague. But we'll Dublin. We'll let Liverpool fans go and fucking take that over.
Let's just see. That's why I love being. I'm glad that you're in my competition this season because I've got a real reason to have a rivalry with you now. It's not just because of your deluded takes, but your team are trying to piss on my parade. So this season, personal, Lawless, actually got personal. Last season was all business. All over it. It was nice. It was all business.
Revenge 2006. 2006 is coming back. Yes. 2000.
I knew you hadn't forgotten that, Lawless. 2006, I got final. I knew you had.
Back. I don't even know how we got onto that. To be fair,
you brought it up. But
You know, our fixture run, that was it. We got a tough run of fixtures, right? So if we come out of August with like 3 points or something, like sack him. Don't
Well,
hesitate.
that juice you were talking about before, Adel, when in relation, to David Moyes. If I was going to ask Lawless that, if Moyes struggles in the first 5, 6, 7, 8 games, that juice is basically gone, isn't it? Because then, whether it be Conference League, Europa League, FA Cup, League Cup, that's all forgotten about if you make a really tough start to the season, because then it's like, there needs to be points on the board.
People already want him out. Like, the pressure's on because of how the transfer window's gone, and a lot of the reports of the players that Moyes wants, and the fact that he seems to be turning down players like Yusuf Fofana and stuff like that. So there's already a lot of fans sort of frustrated with Moyes and fed up with him and just want him to leave now. So it will turn quick. The pressure is on. We have to have a good start. But the problem is we may have one new signing that probably won't be ready in time for the Bournemouth game. So we're going to be playing Bournemouth away without Scamacca, without Declan Rice, without Creswell. We're going into this game weaker than last season, and our record at Bournemouth isn't great. So, and then we've got Chelsea. So we're not ready for the season. I don't.
Where do you think you'll finish then? If you had to put a place on your league, go on.
And just that 1 second, because we have another
Super chat received.
and I think this kind of links to what Errol was saying, because Will's put for Lawless. Are you finishing above Arsenal thanks to the many players you've signed? I think he's taking the mick there. I think he's taking the piss. But with the players that you could potentially sign, are you going to stick your neck out there and say that you're going to finish above Arsenal?
I'm not going to say we're going to finish shit. I'm not going to say we're going to finish above Arsenal. I will say Arsenal ain't winning shit. And you still ain't won shit this season because that's not a trophy, right? Let's be real. Well done for winning a friendly. It's like the Emirates Cup, like the Audi Cup. But this is the thing. It's ifs. Ifs play into it. Because if we have a shit season, I say, I think we'll finish 14th or 15th or whatever, right? Or we'll get relegated. Well, that is going to be if we stick with Moyes throughout the season, right? But if we say Moyes kicks on, right, and he doesn't get sacked, well, that means he must be doing something right, surely, to not get sacked. So we could go on and go bounce back up and compete for Europe. Because I think if he's shit, we get a new manager in who can work with these players, new manager bounce, breath of fresh air, unlock and unleash certain players like Paqueta, and we go on to have a good season. Right now, I'm not feeling massively confident. Obviously, I'm just feeling down on everything West Ham. So, I've already said on other things, if we just go as it stands, 14th. But, Moyes' days are numbered. Like, it's either step up or, step out. That's what it is for Moyes. So he's gonna, if he don't do well, he's gonna get sacked. And if he does do well, good for us. You know what I mean? We're gonna be up there. So this is it. And because the problem is, we're going to see scenes like Burnley at home, like a few seasons ago, where Sullivan was getting pelted with coins and that. If he sticks by him and we're playing shit, that's how it'll be. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm not looking forward to it at all. I've been enjoying not watching West Ham.
Well, let's see how it materializes. It's good to get an opinion from the West Ham situation. Look, West Ham situation by August 31st could be very, very different. We don't know. But Adam, I'm going to come to you on this. We've got a few more teams to touch on, but I want to touch on this team really, really quickly. We, as a channel, will touch on this a little bit more because we have Aston Villa in our first game of the season. So we will preview that on Thursday in our away day show. But Adam, in your opinion, where do you see Aston Villa finishing this season? What type of season are they going to have? They've signed Moussa Diaby, their biggest signing from Leverkusen, who's a top quality player. Pau Torres from Villarreal and Yuri Tillemans on a free. They've brought in some talented players. I'm going to ask you for a quick answer on this, do you think they are a team that could fight for Champions League football, or do you think they're going to be in and around where they were last season?
I hate Villa because I'm terrified of them. I really like the transfer moves they've made, and they've got a lot of money backing at the moment. They've obviously got the Emery factor. I still can't get over. I remember we did one of these towards the tail end of last season, or maybe I can't remember, midway through or something like that. You had the other guy from Villa on the show, and it was all a little bit like, we're not that confident. We're not going to make that team. Was night and day after Gerrard left and Emery came in. That transformation was unbelievable. I think they're going to push on. I don't think when we throw out stuff like, are they going to be pushing for Champions League? No. It's too hard for a race between the top 6-7 teams already. But can they be in that little conversation to like 7th, 8th, and 9th like they've been this year? Yes. And then they've just got to hope one of the top teams screws up, of which it's almost certainly going to be Spurs when they sell Kane. But I think they'll be in and around that area, right? Scared of them, though. I am scared of them. I hate playing Villa.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. They have signed well. Look, Keane, I'll come to you. Villa, are you worried about them maybe potentially displacing you, or do you think, like Adam, they might not be pushing for Champions League, but just below that in terms of Europa League and in Europa Conference?
Yeah, I see him in around kind of the Europa League, Europa Conference, but that's not to say that I don't think they'll be a threat to the big teams when we're all going away from home. This season, I think Joe Emery is a brilliant manager. He sets his teams up so well. Look, we faced him a couple of times when we were in the Europa League, and it's a nightmare coming up against his teams. And like you mentioned, Pau Torres a minute ago, he knows him from having him at Villarreal. I think he's a fantastic signing. We were about to sign him before we signed Varane a couple of years ago. So I think he's an exceptional player. I think Diaby coming in as well. He looks like a threat, and Tielemans on a free. Like that's great business, like all around. So yeah, look, they will be a threat for European places, and if they get through the playoff in the Conference League and they go in there, like similar to what West Ham done last year, they could win a trophy there as well. So yeah, I think they have a great manager, and it looks like they've kind of great people behind the scenes as well. They seem to be well run, so it'll be interesting to see how they go, and does Emery kind of make them better from what they were, I suppose, in the second half of last season. Because when you look at their record when he came in, he won a lot of games. They were one of the top performing teams. But when you throw Europe in the mix, like we talked about prioritising Brighton and Liverpool, we both talked about them prioritising their league position in European football. When does that happen for Aston Villa? Because they haven't won a trophy in a while as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Emery manages that squad.
Definitely. We'll keep Villa as part of the conversation as the season builds on. But I'm going to come back to you, Keane, with regards to Man United. We've got two teams left, Man U and Newcastle. Man United spent a lot of money this season, or this window. Not done yet, apparently. There's still money there to be spent, and obviously you're going to be recouping potentially some if the likes of Maguire leaves. But the money's there again. Another season spending a little bit of money. A lot of people are saying, Keane, Man United should be challenging for the title. Do you think Man United will be challenging for the title this season? State your claim.
No, I'll be honest, I don't think we will, but I do think we'll see improvement in terms of the style of play this season that we did from last year. I think we'll see a lot more progression in the way Eric Ten Hag will want us to play football. I just look at the teams that both Arsenal and Manchester City have in the minute. I still think we're quite a bit behind, even though the signings we've made are good signings. And look, I think they're good for the way Ten Hag wants to play. But I just look at us right now, and I look at certain areas like those striker. I think Rasmus Højlund is going to need time, same way Nunes needed time at Liverpool last season to gel to the Premier League. Though he's a big physical striker, he's direct, but though he's going to need time to adjust to the league. I think Mason Mount, whereas I think a lot of the fan base are probably split on him coming in. I think he's someone who's going to help Ten Hag to make us into the transition team he wants us to be in terms of winning the ball back quickly and hitting teams on the counter. That's the way he said he wants to play this year. So having him and having Fernandes in there from a pressing perspective, I think it'll help him play that way. For me, I'm still a bit concerned though in terms of our transfer business. I'd still like us to bring in another number 6 to help Eric Ten Hag out this year, because we've seen him other times. Casemiro got suspended last year, and every time Casemiro came out of the team, we've seen the drop off. Like, I know I was talking about McTominay being perfect for David Moyes' side, but from a side that wants to play on the front foot, and play out from the back, you can't do that with Scott McTominay or Fred in the 6. So I'd like to see someone come in. I know there's talk about Amrabat recently, so I hope we can get him in. It's difficult to say kind of a title race, because I just look at Arsenal, I look at City, and I just look how they've built their sides, they've built their squads, they've had time to really gel. I just look at us right now. I still think we're a work in progress. There's been money spent, so what I do want to see this year, if we can't sustain a title challenge, is improvement. I want to see an identity, because I think what we've seen under Solskjaer, what we've seen under Mourinho in the last 2 managers, is we haven't seen identity. We haven't. You couldn't nail it down and say what way are Man United going to play. Whereas last season, you kind of seen a bit of that under Ten Hag. I suppose not towards the back end of the season when we were struggling, but when we won the Carabao Cup last season, when we got to the FA Cup final, we seen he was building something. So for what I want to see this season is just more improvement, more identity. And what I do want to see as well is see a couple of young players give him more of a chance this year. You've seen Garnacho break onto the scene last year, though he was a very good player. I want to see him get more game time. I want to see Kobbie Mainoo, get a chance in midfield as well, especially if McTominay and Fred are leaving, though it opens the door for him. He's very highly thought of at the club. So yeah, I want to see obviously identity. I want to see you given the chance, and I just want to see the club, act like a big club again. Because you look at Liverpool, they built themselves up over the last decade since Ferguson left, getting Klopp in, getting Michael Edwards, building that club up and getting back to the pinnacle of English football. Despite the 115 charges, look at Manchester City are doing behind the scenes and how they've built their club. Wherever you say about how dodgy way they've done it, they've a brilliant setup there. Arsenal have done great in the last 5 years, given kind of Arteta the time and the funds, and giving them that platform to do well. I want to see United do that with Eric Ten Hag, and not kind of give up on him after a couple of bad results like we've done with Solskjaer and Mourinho and stuff. So yeah, for me, I just want to see kind of more identity, more progression, and I want to see us go for the FA Cup this year, because that loss in the final stung. When you look at the 2 moments how we lost that final, that stung. Seeing City win the treble, that stung. I just want to see us kind of make up for that this season.
What I was about to ask you then as well was what you've half answered it, I guess, but what does a good season look like for Man U?
I'd say for us to definitely, I saw cementing the top 4, get back to keeping that consistent place in the Champions League. Because what we do is we're in one season, we're out the next season. So I want to see consistent in there, get a bit of stability. I think a run in Europe, a better run in Europe than we had.
Potentially 5 places this year, isn't there?
Yeah.
For the English teams. Yeah.
So I want to see us be thereabouts. And I don't want to see the way it was last year. Remember, it was like United, Newcastle, Liverpool kind of fighting for that kind of them 3 places. And it was close up until the last day. So I want us to be, have that sorted out early on, so we can kind of prioritize other competitions and, stretch this squad out and see how far it can go. But definitely top 4 in a trophy next season, I would be progression. But the other trophy, I wouldn't mind the Carabao Cup. But when I look at the FA Cup, we haven't won it in quite some time. The Champions League, you might get luck in a cup run, but realistically, I want to see us go for the FA Cup this season. I think that'll be another step forward, along with the top 4 as well.
Keane, what do you think Ten Hag's going to do with the right wing situation? I mean, obviously you would as he adds Jadon Sancho, and then you spent an awful lot of money on Anthony. So what do you think he's going to do with that right wing position? Because from the outside looking in, I don't know if the lads agree with me, but I've got concerns, because when you think combined, they were over 120, 130 million, and you can tell that Ten Hag's not entirely comfortable with either of them. Who do you see kicking on, or do you think that one of them could leave and then maybe we might look to bring in a new right winger?
At the moment, I'd say Anthony's probably his number 1, because he's his boy from Ajax, and he kind of gave him more game time last season over Jadon Sancho. He's chopping and changing Sancho's position in the mid between number 10, left wing, or false 9, as we've seen in pre-season as well. So I think Anthony's his number 1. He's his big money signing. And to be fair, one thing, he didn't give the goals and assists last season, but one thing Anthony did give us on that right side was balance that we didn't have in the last couple of years. When we had Sancho there, we were throwing Rashford out right wing when he's not a right winger. So he gave us balance, but I'd like to see a bit more output from this season in terms of assists, getting involved in the playing. start using your fucking right foot, like, for fuck's sake. That'd be fucking progression for him at this point. But I think Anthony's definitely his number one, and Jadon Sancho, I'm unsure on him. I think the jury's really out on him at the moment. I think this season is sink or swim for him, really.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the Højlund transfer? Because I'm fascinated by this one, and it's the same with, I guess there's parallels with Anthony as well. It's like, I can't remember what you paid for him, like something 95 million euros or something, and Højlund is now 75 million, and you're talking about, what's the improvement for Anthony? It's like, well, and I know you're joking, but sort of not as well, like actually be able to use his other foot, which is like pretty basic for like a footballer that costs 95 million euros. Yeah. Højlund is 20 years old, and January of last year, he was playing for Copenhagen and was signed by Sturm Graz for 1.95 million euros in less than a year ago. Like, what is going on with Man United's transfer policy, where it's like they're spending between those two players 160, 70 million on just projects? Like, your man, are you still in the project phase? That's what I don't know.
I think from this, like, I think United are trying to move away from kind of the post Ed Woodward, transfer dealings where we were going out to buy players to sell shirts. When you look at previous transfers like the Ibrahimovic, the Paul Pogba's, players like that, we're trying to move away from that kind of model. Albeit we still are paying massive money, but we're trying to invest in younger players to build a longer type of project. Now, obviously, in Man United, you still need to be competing, you still need to win trophies. But I think when you isolate the Højlund transfer, if you look post Sir Alex, we've only signed kind of 2 strikers that were kind of youngish, and the rest were over the hill 30-year-olds like Ibrahimovic. He done well, but he was kind of the oldest striker. Cavani on the free, Falcao on loan, Ronaldo, as great as it was, Pete can tell, he was on my show.
Weghorst as well, surely.
Weghorst as well. Like, apart from the only 2 strikers we signed under 30 post Sir Alex were Lukaku and Martial. And we know how Martial and Lukaku both worked out. So
is Martial down? Is he going to be gone?
Oh, we can't get rid of him. He's like a bad smell. We can't get rid of him.
He's a lot of money, isn't he?
He's on 250 grand a week, and he's 1 year left in his deal. They'd be like, loaning them out this year would be tough. Never mind selling them.
Well, lob him in with Maguire and McTominay to West Ham. He'll do a job, won't he?
Yeah, just lump it in. We'll take anyone.
Keen. Beggars can't be choosers, Lawless.
Listen,
beggars can't be choosers. Do you know what with Martial's? The problem with Martial's like a Parisian sewer. He stinks out, the gaff, man. He is awful. Do you know what as well? I feel sorry for you, lad, because he's one of the few players that has went to Man U in the last 10 years that as a Liverpool fan, I have genuinely been fearful of. If they get it right with this lad, he could be phenomenal as a forward. But it's just went tits up. He is up. And again, his injury record doesn't help him at all.
The injuries are the worst thing about him. Is he builds a run of games, he plays well, and then he gets injured. And then he comes back after like 6-7 weeks, and then he can't build up that match sharpness. And then, it's the same story with Martial. It's just he builds you up to let you down. And again, when United gave him a new deal and Ed Woodward gave him 250 grand a week, like, I don't know how the Glazers thought he was like a man who done good business, because he put all these like average players on massive wages. And like, that's how, like, if you look at the 1.5 million of debt that United are in, like, we owe like 340 million that in transfer debt. Then you look at obviously the debt repayments and interest and all that type of stuff. But like, really, when you look at the people upstairs, never mind the owners, they've put people on horrible contracts. That's why we're finding it hard to get rid of Maguire. We're finding it hard to get rid of Martial, because the people upstairs haven't the clue, even though they're meant to be investment bankers. Like,
it's mad. You're too big to fail, aren't you? Because no other football institution could make that many fucking missteps, or like, I bet you fucked it up. You've fumbled the bag a number of times.
Oh, we have, yeah.
And you're still a giant in the game in terms of you still get European football, you still attract the biggest and best players in and around the world, you're still able to get a top quality manager with pedigree and well respected within the game. It's like you're too big to fail at this point, and again, that's a worrying prospect. But can you kick on, or do you just sit in that voided space of not being a threat, but constantly being a threat in other areas of the footballing spectrum?
I think under this ownership, our ceiling is probably top 4, because I think when you look at historically since Fergie left, they've given the manager everything in season 1 and maybe season 2. When it comes to season 3, they never back him. They're comfortable with top 4, and then we drop out of the top 4. So like you see with Newcastle what new ownership can do and how quickly that can change. I think like if you look at United's ownership situation right now, like we don't need massive money pumped in. We just need the debt taken away and let the club operate on its genuine revenue. Like you said, the fact that like we've all these things happen, we're still floating around the top 4. We just need the club to operate the way it is. So I think like look, for us to come back, there needs to be new ownership, there needs to be change. But like at the minute, I think we have a great manager and he can take us forward. But how much forward can he take us? So while working with the Glazers, so it remains to be seen.
Keane, I wanted to ask you really quickly, just a couple of comments in the chat, but funnily enough, I saw this name earlier because PSG, well, it was announced that Neymar wants to leave PSG, and I know you were talking earlier about, Man United no longer signing names to sell shirts, but I must admit, when I saw this name, I did think of Man United. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and also, Tom Dixon asks, what are Man United going to do with Greenwood? I mean, we've heard various rumours, so far this summer, but what are your thoughts on what will happen there? Sorry, Pete, you're going to say something.
Just really quickly. I know Errol needs to shoot. So Errol, thank you for coming and joining us.
No, thank you.
Absolute pleasure, man. Just shoot, just fire across really quickly where we can find you just before you leave.
Yeah, Redmen TV watch-alongs, home match watch-alongs all season. Solitaire side up on Twitter. Big up everybody on the panel as well tonight. Big up yourselves. Good to chat to you again, Adam. Keane, good to chat to you, mate. And big up everybody in the comments as well. Your comments have been on fire tonight. So don't forget to drop a like and share to the stream as well. And I'll catch you all soon. Loaded Mag, big up yourselves. And I'll see you tomorrow, yeah. You'll be
Cheers,
back.
Mate. Not the only early exit from Liverpool this year, probably, right?
Yes.
We'll see. We'll run it back.
See ya.
Oh, man. Take care, man.
Take care, Adam.
Oh, Adam, you are on fire tonight. Just throwing
saving
bombs
that one
there,
up,
just on his way out, like it's nothing.
It doesn't have time to say anything back. It's the best part about that. Yeah.
But apologies, Chris.
No.
In there. I've forgotten the question that you asked Keane. But it was a great.
Yeah, no, I was asking Keane about his thoughts on the Neymar news today. Obviously, PSG have confirmed that Neymar wants to leave. And I just wanted to know what was going on with Greenwood because, it's kind of like the worst kept secret, isn't it? Everyone's wondering what's going to happen. Is he going to go out on loan? Is he staying? Have we heard anything yet, Keane? Or
yeah, like firstly, I suppose on Neymar one, look, if this under Ed Woodward, we'd probably be, going in for him now. He'd be looking at the balance sheets, how much money we can make off shirts. I don't think with the likes of Rashford, Garnacho there, we've just given Rashford a big, massive contract. So I don't see the club doubling down and giving Neymar to what money he'd be on. I think just like we're trying to get away from that culture of kind of overpaying players wage wise. So hence why we got David De Gea and that off the books and Pogba. So. Like, look, Neymar, I wouldn't say he'll leave. If anything, I'd say he'd go to the Saudi League and get massive wages there. Like, Mbappe deal failed there, so I can see Saudi League maybe going in for him as that kind of big start to kind of help push the league. In terms of Mason Greenwood, look, the consensus, I suppose, match-going contingent of Man United fans is they don't want him to come back. I don't want him to come back. A lot of people don't want Mason Greenwood to come back. I think what this comes down to is the club having common sense. Common sense will tell you Mason Greenwood should never play for Man United ever again. The Glazers will probably look at him as a £100 million asset, and do we want to leave him go? Like that's the thing. That's what the Glazers look at that as. And for me, he should never play football again. Never mind play for United. So for me, I personally hope he never plays football again. But yeah, I personally don't want him playing for United. But the longer it goes on, and the lack of updates we get, it's looking increasingly likely that we might see him play for United again, which is a massive shame.
What do you boys think of that though? Like that, Chris, Lawless, Adam, like, what do you boys think about the Greenwood situation? Because as I put in the private chat, I said, Chris, that's a great question you put out there. And I know one or two in the chat were kind of asking the question, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about Mason Greenwood in the situation. It's been 2 years now? Like, close to that he's barely kicked a ball for Man United. What are your thoughts about this whole situation? I know it's a difficult situation because of the content on it, but what are your thoughts on this?
I think like they can't. It's a weird one because they can't sack him, they can't play him, but they can pay him off of his contract. And like I feel like it's one where you just don't want him associated with the club. Like for them, it's better just sever ties, get rid of him, and get rid of his association with the club. Even though I know obviously everyone turns into a lawyer on these situations, and technically, he was. But this is the thing. And you can look at it that the video, everything was there. So the law and morality are two separate things, right? So people can do stuff, and legally you can say, well, they wasn't convicted, they wasn't sentenced, but we know that what that person did was wrong. So, and it's just the whole situation anyway is a mess. As you're a club as big as Man United, whatever happens, you just don't want that whole thing associated with you. So just let him go out. There'll be some club that would be willing to take him on in the Championship. One of these clubs, I can't remember. There was one of them clubs. It was a player that got done for something like that, and some club signed him. There was what was the one?
Shed Evans.
Shed Evans is the old.
Shed Evans, yeah, I remember that. And then what's the name? Paula Radcliffe, like basically quit her association with the club. But yeah, I'd say get rid of him.
It was Jessica Ennis.
Jessica Ennis.
Oh, Jessica Ennis.
She had a stand at Bramwell Lane named after her, and she basically asked them to remove it, and she stepped away from being the kind of an association with Sheffield United on the back of that. But you're right. It turned out that when further evidence was given, he was proven to be innocent, but he'd already spent time in prison for his crimes, and he kind of lost his career off the back of that. Because at that point, when he got convicted, he was on the verge of Premier League teams looking at him, and it kind of like had that effect. But this is, to be fair, Lawless, you're absolutely right. This is very different, and like I'm sure you guys agree. The evidence is already there; it's already out there. We don't need a court to kind of decide that. Am I wrong? I don't know.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same, is it? But you had all the Benjamin Mendy stuff as well, where it's the same sort of thing, right? Where it's like, not identical, let's be careful. But there was a lot of accusations, nothing stuck. But, there's too many accusations for it to not be something to it. And now he's gone to some like French club now, is he? Where is he gone?
Lorient, is it, or something?
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if they did a similar sort of thing with Greenwood, right? Just kind of brush it away. But it sounds like, again, similar to Mendy, there's a lot of support from like the players around the club and around him to give him another chance. And I don't know.
Honestly, I don't see how they could bring him back, because number one, if you look at like United's dressing room in general, a lot of the bad eggs have been cleansed out of that dressing room. Now all of a sudden you bring this fella back with all the controversy that's going to come with it and what he's done. That like these lads have missuses, they families. I think it caused too much uproar for him to come back. Now I know there's reports that one or two of them are saying he deserves a second chance or whatever, but look, for what he's done, the evidence is there. I think it'd make the club too toxic. Every away ground Man United would go to, it'd be hell. It would be literal hell. He should never kick up. I agree with that comment.
Yeah.
He should never kick the ball again. I think
the Glazers, the club is going to make a bit. Let's face it. I don't want to be too harsh here, but Man United nowadays is sort of a business that happened to play football.
Yeah,
and they'll make a business decision, and they'll analyze whether playing Greenwood to increase his value and get money's worth back on him at some point is going to be worse or better than getting rid, and how will that impact their stock price? Because
But and then you've got the alternative to that, which Ian's just put in the chat. In McKenna, that's he joining the show. The very premise of our law system is innocent until proven guilty. So you've got the other end of the spectrum, and there's a number in the chat tonight that whether some of them, a lot of them, are not even Man United fans saying exactly that, is that he hasn't been proven guilty. So, why are we?
If there is proof, right?
Why are we trialing him as already guilty when he hasn't been proven guilty? So
he's not guilty. He's not guilty in the eyes of the law. But that doesn't mean Man United need to play him. Doesn't mean any other club needs to employ him and pay him money.
And then the added difficulty is as well, compared to the Mendy case, is the fact that the person who he was initially charged for is now back with him, and someone in the chat just wrote that she's having his baby as well.
They had the child already born. They had a baby like 2 weeks ago.
Oh really? Wow, I didn't know that.
And they're engaged as well. So
that was the killer, yeah.
Sorry to take the chat of you, Chris, just for a second, but
no, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Our resident spanner. Unfortunately, the law doesn't always get it right. He wasn't proven not guilty, though. So there's the other element to that too. And look, this is always going to be a difficult topic. And look, I didn't want to go too deep in this, but I think so many channels and so many people just want to avoid the conversation with regards to Mason Greenwood. I do think it's a topic that should be discussed, which is why we as a channel really appreciate the comments and the opinions that are being put in there with regards to Mason Greenwood, because it is a talking point. Because look, before this, he was a very, very talented player. Like, I remember the comparisons between him and Martinelli in terms of their ability and where they were going to go in their trajectories of their career. But obviously, Mason Greenwood's kind of gone down and Martinelli's flew up, and it's one of those situations that are going to rumble on, and opinions are going to be there. But I just wanted to bring that up, and obviously we've got the Man United perspective on this, and like, last but not least, we always look to talk about Newcastle United, and of course Newcastle United playing Champions League football this season. We're all looking forward to that August 31st draw, the Champions League draw, to see who we're going to pick out in that situation. It's been 20 years, a long, long time since we were last in that competition. But look, Sandro Tonali, Harvey Barnes, and people outside of Newcastle won't know, but Yankuba Minta was brought in for 8 million, put on loan at Feyenoord, who were also in the Champions League, so he's going to be playing Champions League football with them as well. But is a very, very exciting talent that we're obviously very excited about in the years to come. And of course, Chris, Tino Livramento is very much round the corner. Agreed. Keith Downey confirmed today. Lots of people said it was a £40 million deal. Actually turns out that it's a £31 million deal with a $5 million add-on. So a £36 million deal all in, rather than that $40 million that all the journos that don't like Newcastle United have been pushing 45 million to make it sound as worse as possible. But Chris, as our Geordie on Loaded Mag NUFC, state your claim for Newcastle United. What do you think of our preseason? Where do you think we're going to be this season? And then, boys, I want to get your opinions on Newcastle before we wrap up the show.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say, Pete, like, we've had a reasonably decent transfer window. Obviously, Tonali's a big signing. Harvey Barnes has looked particularly exciting in preseason, especially at the weekend just gone. And obviously Minta's come in straight away and then gone on loan to Feyenoord, which I do find to be an interesting deal. But yeah, I mean, I do want more. Yes, Livramento does top that up, which is great. I still think we're one or two shy, and I'm hoping that we're leaving it until late in the window to try and bag a little bargain, or maybe a player becomes available who we weren't expecting. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that happens. In terms of the preseason results, I think we've had a really strong preseason. We started with local teams, didn't we? We started with Gateshead, and then obviously we went into America to do the summer series. We've then ended up doing the Cellar Cup closer to home, but the levels of opposition, the opportunity to play the likes of Brighton, Villa, Chelsea, Villarreal, Fiorentina, it settles up nicely, and we've remained unbeaten. And at this weekend just gone, for anyone who didn't know, we beat Fiorentina 2-0 and we beat Villarreal 4-0, and both performances were pretty impressive. So lots to be positive about. I suppose. Do you know what? And Pete, you tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think out of the four of us lads, me, you, Daz, and Rich, I've probably been the one who's kind of been the most reserved in terms of league position. We did a predictions show the other night, didn't we? And I think I was the one who said that we'd finish the lowest. I think I said sixth, or maybe Keith as well. I think he said between fifth and seventh. But I think this season will be a challenge based on what we've got right now. I do think we'll have a good season, but as I said at the very start of this show, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be some clubs, really up there challenging. I genuinely believe 8 or 9 clubs are well within the mix for Europe. So I think it's going to be one of the most competitive leagues that we've seen so far. It was certainly, for the last 15, 20 years, because there's that many good clubs. And I think this is the first season as well. And lads, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think this is the first season where it's noticeably it's noticeable that the teams that have gone down are better than the teams that have come up. Like, I worry for Sheffield United, I worry for Luton. I think Burnley will be okay under Company. I think he can get a tune out of them. But, we've lost 3 big teams there. We've lost Leicester, fantastic squad, Southampton, Leeds, some big clubs there. And I just think it's going to make the Championship more competitive. And I think our league, it's starting to break away a little bit. Lawless won't like me saying that. But if West Ham can bring in a couple of new players, maybe they can keep up there. But I do feel that it's starting to look like it could end up being top 10, bottom 10. But I don't know whether that's fair or not. But that's how I see it. But I think Newcastle are in for a good season. It'll be interesting to see how we manage the cup competitions as well as the Champions League. But overall, I'm looking forward to the season, and I think I've got reason to be in high spirits.
Brilliant stuff. Boys, Keane, Lawless, Adam, state your claim with regards to Newcastle. What do you think about their summer business? Do you think Newcastle will be fighting at the top end of the table like they were last season? I will leave that as an open forum for you guys to discuss. What do you think?
Do you know what? I'm slightly concerned, and do you know what? I love Eddie Howe, and he's a brilliant manager, but I'd have a couple of concerns. I think for me, first of all, left back would be a massive one. Like, I think playing Dan Burn week in, week out in Champions League and the Premier League, with the money Newcastle have, could they get someone better? Would be my first thought. I think especially centre half as well. I know Botman was unbelievable last year, and Ducharme was solid as well. Like, for me, if Newcastle are going to compete on both fronts, I think defensively they're going to have to get a couple of signs. I know Livermento's coming in, he's a very good player and showed a lot of promise at Southampton. So, look, I think from there he might do all right. But I think squad depth for me would be the biggest concern in certain areas, especially with Europe, because you're going to be, it was a pot 3 or pot 4 you're going to be in. So depending on who you get in the pot 4, so depending on who you get in the group, it could be a tough ask. Look, I think when you have likes of Alexander Isak up front, like he's a superstar. Like, he's a brilliant player. I think Bruno G as well. Like, he's a fantastic midfielder. But you get a couple of injuries in that spine, and all of a sudden, like we've seen it with United, with some of our important players like Martinez and that got injured. You feel it when your top players get injured. And like, I think just for Newcastle, with the money they have, I know you might educate me, it's FFP might be a bit of an issue for you, at the moment. But I'd be concerned if you got a couple of injuries to like your spine.
Interesting points. Fair points. Lawless, Adam, your opinions on Newcastle?
I tell you what, though, losing the great Harrison Ashby on loan, without him, whatever will you do?
I knew it.
Whatever will you do?
Yes, he messaged me as soon as the Ashby deal was announced, so I knew he was going to come with this tonight. Go for it, Lawrence. Go on.
Because it's like, do you know what? Because thing is with Pete, yeah, he will find a positive out of anything. Like, since these new owners have come in, Nash and Mike Ash has gone, everything's positive. Every signing is positive. Every sale is positive. It's all positive. Yeah, we're going to sign this player. It's going to be fucking great. But I will say this, right? If Ashby comes back off loan and, comes straight into the first team, he's playing regular football, like, he's going to be 23 next year, right? 23, 24. No, 24. He's 23 this year, isn't it?
I
think he's around it. So he ain't no 18, 19-year-old. I will say that, right? The time has got to be ticking. And if he's not making it in the next couple of seasons, then he's never going to make it. But I feel like Newcastle can have a good season this season for sure. The Champions League is going to be a little bit of a stretch to balance that. But I feel like Newcastle have to really try and win a trophy this season. Maybe not necessarily the Champions League, but an FA Cup, a Carabao, maybe drop down into Europa. If you are in, and that is one of the benefits of being in. Obviously, you want to go as deep as you can, right? But if you're in that tougher pot, you got the opportunity to drop down into Europa and come and compete in the proper competition this season. But 70 years without a trophy or whatever, man, like, you can't keep being like, oh, look at us, we're playing Champions League football and we're up there. And no, like, you've got to win some trophies. That's what it's about. But I do think you'll be up there anyway, back competing for them Champions League spots regardless. So yeah, Eddie Howe seems to be a very good coach, knows what he's doing, making some good signings. Just like you said, need a few more if you're serious. Get a few more in. I don't know what you guys are really doing about player sales, if you're going to be generating players for sale, but if you do, you get some money in and beat that FFP thing. I mean, FFP doesn't seem to apply to everyone anyway, from what I've seen.
It does for us, though. It does for us. Like, you've talked about player sales, and we've talked about this loads on Loaded Mag NFC. Like, we had to sell Alisson Maximin. We had to sell him because we weren't able to sign Barnes, Livramento, and potentially one or two that we're also looking at, defenders, centre backs, and whoever that comes next after Livramento. We weren't able to do those deals unless Alisson Maximin left, because he was the one that generated the most amount of money. So it is a factor for us. For other clubs, Chelsea and all the rest of it, it's not, because they sell a lot of their players for big money.
A lot of their academy players, and they do a great business that way.
Yeah, we're not in that position yet, so we have to sell some of our first team players. So that's kind of where it kind of comes from. But Adam, what's your opinion on Newcastle? What do you think it is to be expected from them this season?
Yeah, this season's going to be so weird because the last one was so weird. I hate Chelsea, but I think they're going to be quite good this year. Maybe it's a year too soon for Pochettino, but they've got all the pieces there. I don't think Liverpool have quite the same screw up as they did last year, right? We already know what capacity Man City are at. We talked about Arsenal, but we've already named 4 teams there who are all vying for big stuff. That's before we've got into like everyone else that still has these big aspirations. So I think your prediction that you mentioned, like that sort of 5th to 7th area with more upside is probably right around the area that I'd expect. But I mean, Eddie Howe deserves a lot of respect. And because I think when everyone's reaction to Eddie Howe going to Newcastle originally was like, oh, he's going to just be a transitional manager. They're bringing him for 2 years and then they'll throw money at someone with a bigger name. And look, he's proven it's not easy. Look around with some of the other people that we've had talking as well. Like, I don't want to target you, Keane, with Man U, but you can throw money at stuff, but it doesn't just work. And Howe's managed to make it work, 100%. Right? And there's a ton of credit there. So I'm particularly envious of that grouping that you've got now with Tonali and Guimaraes. Like, that's quality. And the fact that you're building the team out with players that are of an age whereby you've got a good few years for them to grow with the team as it continues on the upward trajectory. Because you've got Tonali's 23, Bruno's 25, how Isaac's like
24, is he?
Yeah,
23.
Botman's 23.
Like,
there you go. Like, is it a year or two too early to like be considered as a year in, year out Champions League team? Probably, but like, shit, you're in the Champions League. That's enough to be happy about already, right?
It is for us. It is for us. But like I say, we've got Sandro Tonali. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on this season. It was interesting that Lawless, you talked about Scamacca as an Italian coming to England, not settling, not kind of adjusting to England, and then being sold off. I genuinely think Tonali won't be in that situation. I think Newcastle have really tried their hardest to acclimatise him as soon as possible to the English football, into the English sort of like way. I don't know if any of you guys saw it on Twitter, but we did as Newcastle fans the crossover between him and David Ginola, and their meet up, and their little short video that was out yesterday, which I thought, like Chris, I know you'd agree, it was absolutely fantastic to watch, and it was Ginola kind of like acclimatizing him to the Geordie accent, and Lawless, you know everything about the Geordie accent because you are the Jamaican Geordie. You know it. Of course you do. But can
we have a bit of Jamaican Geordie? Have we got time for it?
Listen, I consider it as full on Geordie. Like, I don't know where the Jamaican thing, but I tell you what, man, it's a bloody Geordie accent if you ever hear one. And the Newcastle Harrison Ashby, he's fucking shite, lad, and we'll get him out the club and send him back to West Ham, man. Well, yay!
That is Bob Marley trying to do a Northern English accent.
There you go.
Yeah,
the Jamaican Geordie.
90% Jamaican.
You have nailed it. You've nailed it, Adam. 110%. Mark Pearson said the Pakistani Geordie. That there are lots of other opinions, but it is a great attempt on the Geordie accent.
You know what? I'm hoping to come Newcastle away this season, right? I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see if I can blend in Newcastle, right? Go in a pub, see if they like, you know what I mean? Order a pint in that accent. See if anyone raises the eyebrows.
Lawless, hold that opinion because I want to speak to you after the show. And me and Chris want to have a chat with you about that after the show about Newcastle away this season. But look, it's going to be an interesting one. Newcastle for us, we gave our predictions last night. We've got to remember, fifth could potentially get Champions League football this season. With the way, if the English teams have a good season, the coefficient could open up fifth place for that. So it could well be that a team like Newcastle, Man United, even a Brighton, Villa, or whoever could be within that conversation if it opens up an extra space. But I'm confident. I'm seeing what Eddie Howe's doing with this team. Chris, you've seen what Eddie Howe's done with this team over pre-season. We're a better squad now than we were last season with the players that we've brought in. Put it into perspective, guys, for you guys that wouldn't know and follow Newcastle. Joe Willock hasn't kicked a ball in pre-season. Sean Longstaff has played, one game or 2 games.
I think he had the first game at Gateshead, didn't he?
And then Villarreal yesterday. He hasn't played any other games. They were 2 crucial players for us this pre-season. But Elliot Anderson, Lewis Miley, Sandro Tonali have all stepped in, and we haven't missed any of those players. They've been crucial to us last season, but we've brought in these players that have made a difference. We've got other players that have stepped up. So for me, I'm confident with another couple of additions, and I don't think we're done. I think there'll be at least 1 or 2 after Livramento that will come through the door that I think we'll be really set as a squad. I'm not saying we're going to win every competition, far from it, but I think we'll be competitive in each. And that's all Newcastle United want as a fan base. We want a team that tries and gives their all and is competitive in all competitions. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see how it all transpires. But just really quickly, your team, very quickly, where do you see as a position that you're going to finish in this season? Keane, I'll come to you first.
I do think we'll get back into the top 4 again. I do think we'll finish 3rd again this season. And I think, look, again, it'll be a season where it's but great attacking football. And we see some of these younger players still get a chance this year.
Interesting. Third, being in that top four. Lawless, where do you think you're going to be? Obviously, you finished bottom half with the Europa Conference League trophy in the bag. Where do you see yourself finishing the season, mate?
Yeah, like I said, it's hard, obviously, with the transfer window still going on, us not signing the player, only selling players. So I have to talk about hypotheticals, really, at this stage. Hypothetically, if we don't sign any more players, I think we'll be on the cusp of that relegation area. But again, it depends who we get in. But we've got the money to spend. If we get Alvarez in, I think that's positive. I think we could be... I don't know, man. I'll put my neck out in line and say like 8th or something. You know what I mean? We'll say 8th. Okay. That's banking on us actually signing players and that,
8th in the league, potentially fighting Europa League, last stages potentially. Not a bad season.
Yes. I'm just trying to think because everyone's gone really bold. Like 3rd for United, maybe 8th for West Ham. I'm like, Christ, I'm going to say fucking 2nd. I think reality is there's too many strong teams at the top of the table now, and 8th would be amazing. A top 10 finish, I think, just like I said earlier, like cement ourselves in the top half of the table would be fantastic. But like, if you think of the traditional top 6 plus you guys now that are all over that. You've got your Villas that we talked about, and that's we're not talked about size. I know they're not going to be quite probably as good this year, like Brentford, and if West Ham come good, like it's going to be too much of a fight. So I'd love for us to be around a sort of 8th, 9th area.
I think there's an expectation though from a lot of people. They always look at it and go, "Oh, well, surely Chelsea will be back up there, and Newcastle's going to be good again, and Arsenal are going to be like." You're always going to get at least that 1 or 2 teams that just sort of.
There'll be 1 or 2 disasters, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But Liverpool had an absolute disaster, and they still came good.
Salah just carried him, didn't he? In the last couple of months, he was just bagging, man. He was ridiculous.
Yeah, I maybe this is like incredibly pessimistic, but the benefit that they get, even if they screw up so hard, these like the massive teams that have the squads that they do, is that at the end of a long slog of a season, they just have the depth to overcome a lot of stuff. And that's where, sides like Brighton, like if our first 11's playing, great, we can fight with anyone. But we've done a Europa League run, all the cup competitions, and it's going to, March, and we're playing football. It just gets sticky. So, yeah, well, a punch above our weight, hopefully.
Hopefully Evan Ferguson just has an absolute breakout season. And, look, for me...
you and me both.
In that next summer, because he was actually my choice over Rasmus Højlund this year. But obviously, he got that new contract, and though obviously that's not going to happen. So, well, not this year anyway.
Yeah.
Keane's hoping he has a good season for other reasons. That's
too. There's United, and look, obviously as an Irishman, doesn't hurt that we get a good striker. But yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone, as they'd say.
It's good. It will be. I'm not to go on about Evans Ferguson too much, but you did bring it. It's crazy when you look around, like how rare it is now to actually get a decent number 9. Like it is so hard, and that's why like Højlund's going for what he's going for, and it's impossible. So like hopefully if he does well and does well for Brighton for the next 1-2 years, like we can buy a whole new squad full of Evan Fergusons.
Chris, Newcastle, where do you think? I know we did the prediction show last night, but where do you think we're going to end up?
I think I'll stick to what I said last night. So I'll go conservative and say we'll finish 6th, because that's what I said.
Europa League football.
Yeah.
Back-to-back European football. Not a bad situation at all. Boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Massive thanks to Chris, first of all. Brandy and Blaze in the house, as always, representing Loaded Mag NUFC, and your opinions, and obviously being amazing in the chat, as always. Keane, massive thanks to you. Your Battleground Europe debut. Great to have you on with your Man United opinions. And look, we'll definitely have you be back on the channel over the course of the season. Where can we find you first and foremost?
Yes, you can catch me on the Devil's Advocate podcast on YouTube. On Wednesday, we have a show with Ben Jacobs talking, well, hopefully it's probably going to be outgoings this week on transfers with McTominay and Maguire to West Ham. Sorry, Lawless. But yeah, we'll be talking transfers this Wednesday. So yeah, please do check that out.
Brilliant stuff. Dan, where can we find you, my man? And thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, obviously, West Ham Fan TV. We got to watch along for the Bournemouth game coming up. Me, Jason, my mate Damo. So he made a bet that if we did win the Conference League, he would dress up a Cher and sing "Believe." And if you ever see what he looked like, big hairy bearded guy. I mean, I don't know if that's like a sales pitch or just a stay away warning. It's a warning. So watch. So that's going to be happening on Saturday, and obviously at the Lawless on Twitter.
Love it. I'll definitely keep an eye out for that one. But top man, I know you had some issues joining tonight, but I appreciate you taking the time to come and join us. And of course, all the way over from the States, Adam, where can we find you guys and your channel?
Yeah, Together B8A. Look, I can't imagine any Newcastle fans going to hop on and listen to a Brighton podcast, but maybe in the games after we've played you and maybe taken a couple of points, you come and have a listen and see if we're fair. But this is actually our fifth. We're 5 years old as a podcast now, which is today, which is pretty cool. So yeah, thank you. But yeah, excited. You guys do such a great job with this, so I appreciate you having us on.
Absolute pleasure, and it's the reason why we do a great job with this is because guys like yourself and obviously Errol as well joining the channel. It helps us along the way. If you haven't already, click the likes. Looking at 350, I'm going to set the target 350 likes for this show. Make sure you click the like on the way out. I know Lisa and many others have been plugging the likes and the subscriptions. We are less than 40 away from 6K, so let's get us there tonight if you haven't already. Thank you very much. And Chris is on the button. Thank you very much for watching the channel. That is for sure. Just quick shout out to the sponsors. First of all, the Radiator Shed. Thank you for your continued support for everything Newcastle United. We've got Adam and we've got Lawless in prison right now. In the prison, of course, we have.
Nice and warm, though.
Yeah, nice and warm. That is absolutely true. They provide top quality materials made from plate steel, providing longevity. All designs are manufactured in Italy, and aluminium rads are very environmentally friendly and are perfect for heat source pumps. And just a little example of those examples in the showroom, if you wanted to check that out. Of course, the Geordie Journos of Newcastle World, Jordan, Dom, and Liam. If you haven't already, scan and sign up for the free Newcastle United newsletter for all things Newcastle United with regards to those boys. And look, Jordan and the crew will be back very, very shortly. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight. Great to have the predictions. Battleground Europe is up and running for this season. We're going to see how things transpire. But first and foremost, for me, we're back, and that's the most important thing. The football season is back this weekend. We're all back in action, and I'm sure in the months to come, we'll get Battleground Europe 2 back in play to see how we're all faring. But for all you guys on the panel, absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Everyone in the chat, amazing. Thank you for your questions. Apologies if we didn't get to it. But, of course, we have to end the show right now. And, Chris, how do we end it?
How'd you like that?
Take care, guys.
How you like?